Tonight, we explore the question that sits at the centre of the Harry Potter story's saddest thread. What if Severus Snape had not lost Lily Evans? What if, on the day that the word mudblood came out of his mouth, the day that every choice he'd made and every person he'd become crashed into the one person who mattered, what if that day had ended differently? Not because Snape didn't say it, he said it. The pressure, the humiliation, the Marauders holding him upside down while the girl he loved watched, the word came out because the word was in him, planted there by years of Slytherin common rooms and pure-blood friends and the slow, terrible education of a boy who wanted to belong somewhere. He said it. But what if Lily, instead of walking away forever, had turned around one more time? And what if that turning was enough? This is the story of the road not taken. The life that Severus Snape almost had, the price he paid for almost having it, and the world that was made and unmade by one word not being the last. June 1976, 5th year. The word came out and Lily walked away. This was canon. This was the moment. Snape on the ground, James Potter's wand on him, the crowd watching, the humiliation complete. And Snape, looking up at the girl who had come to help him, who had defended him, who was the only person in the world who saw him as something other than the greasy-haired Slytherin who was too clever for his own good. Snape looked at her and said the word. Mudblood. The word hit Lily like a slap. The flinch was physical, the recoil of someone who had just been struck by the person who was supposed to be safe. She turned. She walked away. The friendship was over. In canon, it stayed over. Snape went to the Gryffindor common room that night and waited outside the portrait hole and begged her to forgive him, and she said no. She said, "I've made excuses for you for years. You've chosen your way, I've chosen mine." In this story, she said something different. She said, "One chance." Lily was in the corridor at 11 at night. She'd come down from the common room because she couldn't sleep, because the word was in her head, repeating, because she'd spent 5 years defending Severus Snape to everyone who said he was heading somewhere dark, and today he'd proved them right, and the proving hurt more than the word itself. She found him outside the portrait hole, sitting on the floor. His robes were still dirty from the lakeside. His hair was in his face. He looked the way he always looked when the world had been too much, smaller than he was, contained, as if by making himself physically less he could reduce the damage he'd done. "Sev," Lily said. He looked up. The expression on his face was, she'd known Severus Snape since she was 9 years old. She'd seen him angry, frightened, proud, defensive, brilliant. She had never seen him look like this. The expression was the expression of someone who had just destroyed the most important thing in their life and who knew it. "Lily," Snape said. "I didn't mean..." "You did mean it," Lily said. "You meant it when you said it. The word came out because it was in you." "It's not in me," Snape said. It's what they say. In the common room. It's the vocabulary you chose," Lily said. "The friends you chose. The direction you've been going for 2 years." "I haven't been going anywhere, you have," Lily said. "And I've been watching. And I've been making excuses. And today you called me the thing that your friends call people like me, and the excuses are gone." Snape was on the floor. On the stone floor of the corridor outside the Gryffindor common room at 11 at night, and the conversation he was having was the conversation that would determine the rest of his life. "I'm sorry," Snape said. "I know you're sorry," Lily said. "You're always sorry after." "Sorry doesn't change the direction." "What changes the direction?" Snape said. Lily looked at him, at this boy she'd known since childhood. The boy from Spinner's End who had told her she was a witch, who had introduced her to a world that was magical and terrible and full of people who would call her mudblood to her face. The boy who was brilliant and cruel and wounded and who loved her with the absolute, consuming, undiluted intensity of someone who had never been taught any other way to love. You do, Lily said. You changed the direction. How? Snape said. By choosing, Lily said. Right now. Tonight you choose the people you've been spending time with, Mulciber and Avery and the dark arts and whatever Voldemort is offering, or you choose me. I choose you, Snape said. Immediately, without hesitation. Don't say it that fast, Lily said. Think about what it means. It means cutting them off, Lily said. Mulciber, Avery, Rosier, the whole group, the common room conversations, the dark arts practice, all of it. They'll hate you, Lily said. They'll make your life miserable. You'll lose every friend you have in Slytherin. You're the only friend I need, Snape said. That's not healthy, Lily said. That's dependency. And dependency is not what I'm offering. What are you offering? Snape said. Lily sat down on the floor across from him. In the corridor, at 11 at night, two 15-year-olds on the stone floor having the conversation that would determine everything. One chance, Lily said. One, if you choose me, if you genuinely, actually, with real consequences choose to walk away from the people and the magic that are pulling you towards something I can't follow, then we try. We try to be what we were before all of this. Friends, real friends, the kind who don't call each other names. Friends, Snape said. For now, Lily said. Friends first. The rest is, later, maybe, if you earn it. If I earn it, Snape said. You have a lot to earn back, Lily said. I know, Snape said, and I need you to understand something, Lily said. If you say that word again, to me, to anyone, about anyone, this conversation is the last one. There is no second chance. There is no third chance. This is the one. Snape looked at her. At Lily Evans, who was 15 years old and who was offering him the thing he wanted most in the world, her presence, her friendship, the possibility of something more, with conditions that required him to dismantle the other half of his life. One chance, Snape said. One chance, Lily confirmed. He took it. 6th year. The cost. The cost of choosing Lily was immediate, comprehensive, and exactly as bad as she'd warned him. Snape returned to the Slytherin common room the next morning and did not sit with Mulciber and Avery. This was noticed within minutes. In Slytherin, where seating was political and absence was statement, the empty chair at the table where Snape usually sat was a declaration louder than words. Where were you this morning? Mulciber said, finding Snape in the corridor after potions. Studying, Snape said. You study with us, Mulciber said. Not anymore, Snape said. Since when? Mulciber said. Since now, Snape said. The expression on Mulciber's face went through several stages: confusion, calculation, the specific Slytherin assessment of whether this was a temporary withdrawal or a permanent realignment. This is about the Evans girl, Mulciber said. This is about me, Snape said. You're choosing a mudblood over, don't, Snape said. The word came out with a quality that Mulciber hadn't heard before. Not the competitive nastiness of a Slytherin defending territory, but the cold, flat warning of someone who was drawing a line. Don't call her that, Snape said. Ever, Mulciber looked at him. The looking lasted long enough for the Slytherin calculation to complete. You're done, Mulciber said. With us. With everything, yes, Snape said. The Dark Lord won't forget this, Mulciber said. He's been interested in you. Your talent. Your work on the spells, I know, Snape said. I'm not interested anymore. You can't not be interested, Mulciber said. It doesn't work like that. Watch me, Snape said. The social isolation was swift and complete. Within a week, Snape was eating alone at the Slytherin table, the only person sitting by himself, the visible evidence of a choice that the house interpreted as betrayal. In Slytherin, loyalty to the group was the first commandment. Breaking from the group was heresy. They hexed his belongings. They vandalized his dormitory. They left notes, anonymous, vicious, the kind of cruelty that teenagers deployed with expertise that called him a blood traitor, a muggle lover, a waste of talent that had been headed somewhere important and had been diverted by a girl. Snape endured this. Not well. Snape was not a person who endured things well. He was angry, isolated, defensive, and acutely aware that the choice he'd made had cost him every social structure he'd had in the wizarding world. The Slytherin common room, which had been his home for 5 years, was now hostile territory. His dormitory, where he'd slept for 5 years, was no longer safe. He slept in the library. This was not metaphorical. Snape spent 3 weeks sleeping in the restricted section, behind a concealment charm he'd developed, because the dormitory was too dangerous, and because Snape, who had been solving problems with magic since he was a child, solved this problem the same way. Madame Pince found him on the 4th week. Instead of reporting him, she left a blanket on the chair. This was the kindest thing anyone at Hogwarts had done for Severus Snape in 6 years, and he never forgot it. Lily found out about the library sleeping in February. "You've been sleeping in the library for a month," Lily said. They were in the corridor between potions and charms, the meeting place they'd established, neutral ground between houses. "The dormitory is inhospitable," Snape said. "They're hurting you," Lily said. "They're expressing disapproval," Snape said, "through hexes." "Sev, it's manageable," Snape said. "I've dealt with worse. You shouldn't have to deal with any of it," Lily said. "Tell McGonagall. Tell Dumbledore. Tell the teachers that I'm being punished for leaving a group of future Death Eaters," Snape said. "That would require explaining what the group was, which would require implicating people who are considerably more dangerous than I am, which would result in either nothing happening or something happening to me. The system doesn't protect people like me," Snape said. "It never has. People like you meaning, people who are between sides," Snape said. "Too dark for the light, too light for the dark. The system has 2 categories, and I'm in neither." Lily looked at him, at this boy who had given up everything, his friends, his social standing, his safety, because she'd asked him to. And the asking had been right, the direction he'd been going was wrong, but the cost he was paying was real, and she couldn't pretend it wasn't. "Come to the Gryffindor common room," Lily said. "I can't." "I'll get you in," Lily said. "You can sleep on the sofa." "A Slytherin in the Gryffindor common room," Snape said. "That'll go well." "My common room," Lily said. "My invitation. Anyone who has a problem with it can talk to me." Snape went to the Gryffindor common room that evening. He sat on the sofa with a book while Lily studied at the table nearby. The Gryffindors stared, not with hostility exactly, but with the bewildered attention of people encountering something that didn't fit any available category. James Potter stared most of all. James Potter's response to the Lily Snape situation was complicated. The word complicated was doing a lot of work in that sentence. James had been pursuing Lily since 4th year. The pursuing had been the James Potter method. Bold, confident, public. The pursuit of someone who assumed that persistence and charm were sufficient tools for any romantic endeavour. Lily had rejected him repeatedly. Not because she didn't see his qualities. James was brave, talented, funny. But because the qualities came packaged with arrogance and cruelty, and the specific, bullying behaviour towards Snape that Lily found repulsive. Now Snape was in the Gryffindor common room, sitting on the sofa, reading a book, and Lily was nearby, studying, glancing at Snape periodically with an expression that James recognised and that destroyed him, the expression of someone who cared. "He's sitting on our sofa," James said to Sirius in the dormitory. "I noticed," Sirius said. "Snivellus, on our sofa," James said. "I can see him from here," Sirius said. "Lily brought him," James said. "I know," Sirius said. She's She cares about him, James said. The sentence cost him something visible, the admission, the acknowledgement that the girl he was pursuing had feelings for the person he'd spent 5 years tormenting. She's always cared about him, Sirius said. Since before we met her. That's the situation, Sirius said. The question is what you do about it. What can I do? James said. Challenge him to a duel? Hex him until she changes her mind? Every time I've gone after Snape, she's liked me less. Then maybe stop going after Snape, Sirius said. He's Snivellus, James said. He's the person Lily chose, Sirius said. And if you can't deal with that, then you've already lost. Sirius Black, whose emotional intelligence was not his most celebrated quality, had just produced the most insightful observation of James Potter's life. The observation landed because it was true, and because Sirius, who loved James, delivered it without softening. James didn't go after Snape. This was the hardest thing James Potter had ever done at Hogwarts, harder than the Animagus transformation, harder than the full moon runs in the forest, harder than any academic or athletic challenge. Not fighting Snape. Not tormenting the boy who was sitting on the Gryffindor sofa reading Lily's books and occupying Lily's attention. James stopped. Not immediately. The habit was deep, and the anger was real, and the first 2 weeks involved multiple incidents where James started towards Snape and Sirius or Remus redirected him. But by March, the stopping was deliberate. By April, it was consistent. By May, it was a character trait. Lily noticed. You've stopped, Lily said to James, in the common room in May. Stopped what? James said. Going after Severus, Lily said. You haven't hexed him in 3 months. I stopped because you asked me to, James said. This was not entirely true. He'd stopped because Sirius had told him the truth, but the statement was close enough. I didn't ask you to, Lily said. I've been asking you to stop for 5 years and you never listened. I'm listening now, James said. Why now? Lily said. James looked at her, at Lily Evans, who was 16, who was the most vivid person he'd ever met, whose green eyes were the green that described everything he wanted and couldn't have. Because you chose him, James said, and I can either be the person who makes your life harder because I can't handle that, or I can be someone who respects you enough to accept your choice. Even though you think the choice is wrong, Lily said. Especially because I think the choice is wrong, James said. Because respecting someone means respecting them when you disagree. Lily looked at James Potter with the expression of someone seeing a person clearly for the first time. That's the most mature thing you've ever said, Lily said. Don't tell anyone, James said. I have a reputation. As an arrogant bully, Lily said. I was thinking more confident leader. But sure, James said. He was smiling. The James smile, the one that was charm and warmth and the specific infectious quality of someone who genuinely liked people and wanted people to genuinely like him. The smile that had been, in other timelines, the thing that eventually won Lily over. In this timeline, the smile was not enough. Because Lily had already chosen, and the choosing was not about smiles. James, Lily said, you're going to be a good person. You're already becoming one. But, James said. But I'm with Severus, Lily said. You're not. You're friends, James said. We're friends, Lily said, and the friends part might become something else. And I need you to know that. James absorbed this. The absorption was physical. The deflation of someone who had been hoping that Lily's choice was temporary and who was being told, kindly but clearly, that it wasn't. I'll be all right, James said. I know you will, Lily said. But it hurts, James said. I know, Lily said. Can I still be your friend? James said. If you can be my friend without trying to undermine what I have with Severus, Lily said. I can try, James said. Try is enough, Lily said. Seventh year. The relationship. By seventh year, Lily and Severus were together. Not the dramatic, public, everyone knows togetherness of a school romance, but the quiet, private, chosen togetherness of two people who had known each other since childhood and who had arrived, through crisis and choice, at the place they'd been circling since Spinner's End. The relationship was not easy. This was the thing that people who watched it from the outside didn't understand. They saw Lily and Snape together, and assumed either that Lily was deluded or that Snape was reformed. And neither assessment was accurate. Lily was not deluded. She saw Snape clearly, more clearly than anyone, because she'd known him longest, and because her intelligence was not the kind that made allowances for comfortable fictions. She saw his temper, his defensiveness, his reflexive cruelty toward people he considered beneath him. She saw the bitterness that had been building since his childhood at Spinner's End, the hatred of his father, the shame about his poverty. She saw all of it, and she chose him anyway, not because the flaws didn't matter, but because the person underneath the flaws was the person she'd recognized at 9, brilliant, fierce, capable of a depth of love that was both his greatest quality and his most dangerous one. Snape was not reformed. He had changed direction, not nature. The intelligence was the same, the penetrating, ruthless, analytical intelligence that had made him the best potions student in a generation. The talent for dark magic was the same, suppressed, not eliminated, the knowledge still in his head even if the practice had stopped. The bitterness was the same, redirected from the Marauders to the world in general, because Snape's bitterness was structural rather than targeted. What had changed was the object of his loyalty. Before Lily's ultimatum, Snape's loyalty had been divided between Lily and the Slytherin group, between love and belonging, between the person he wanted to be and the person his circumstances were making him. After the ultimatum, the division was resolved. Lily was the loyalty. Everything else was secondary. "You can't make me your everything," Lily said in a conversation in February of 7th year. They were in the corridor outside the library. Their corridor, the neutral ground that had become, over 2 years, the geography of their relationship. "You are my everything," Snape said. "That's the problem," Lily said. "I can't be your everything, Sev. That's too much weight for one person. You need other things, other people, other interests, other reasons to be alive." "I have potions," Snape said. "Potions is not a social life," Lily said. "Potions is better than a social life," Snape said. "Sev," Lily said. "I have you," Snape said. "And I have potions. And I have the library, where Madam Pince leaves me blankets. That's sufficient." "It's not sufficient," Lily said. "It's survival. I want you to live, not survive." "There's a difference?" Snape said. And the question was genuine, the genuine question of someone whose childhood had been about survival, and who did not have a clear model for what living, as opposed to surviving, looked like. "The difference is joy," Lily said. "Survival doesn't have joy. Living does." "I have joy," Snape said. "When I'm with you." "And when you're not with me," Lily said. Snape was quiet. "When I'm not with you," Snape said, "I have the absence of you, which is not joy." Lily looked at him with the expression that was going to become very familiar over the years, the expression of someone who loved a person who was brilliant and difficult, and who required more patience than most people had, and who was worth the patience. "We need to work on that," Lily said. "On what?" Snape said. "On you having joy that doesn't depend on me," Lily said. "That sounds exhausting," Snape said. "That sounds like living," Lily said. "After Hogwarts. The war." They married in 1978, the summer after graduation. The wedding was small, tiny actually, because Snape's side of the guest list consisted of Madame Pince and a potions journal editor who Snape had been corresponding with, and Lily's side consisted of her parents, her sister who came reluctantly and left early, and the friends she'd maintained through school. James Potter was not invited. This was Lily's decision, not Snape's. Lily understood that inviting James to watch her marry someone else was a cruelty she wasn't willing to inflict. James found out through Sirius, who found out through Remus, who had maintained a cautious friendship with Lily through 7th year. The information arrived at James's flat in London at 11 in the morning on a Saturday, and James's response was to put his fist through a wall. "Feel better?" Sirius said. "No," James said, shaking his hand. "Want to break something else?" Sirius said. "I want to go to the wedding and tell her she's making a mistake," James said. "Don't," Sirius said. "I know," James said. "I wasn't going to. I wanted to." "Wanting to and doing it are different things," Sirius said. "Since when are you the mature one?" James said. "Since you punched a wall," Sirius said. James did not go to the wedding. He went to the pub instead, with Sirius and Remus and Peter, and he drank too much and he talked about Lily too much, and Sirius let him because that was what best friends did. "She chose him," James said at midnight, 3 pints past wisdom. "She did," Sirius said. "And I have to live with that," James said. "You do," Sirius said. "I don't know how," James said. "You learn," Sirius said. "The way you learn everything, by doing it badly until you do it well." James learned. Not quickly, not with the speed that characterized everything else James did. Slowly, painfully, with the grinding difficulty of a person processing a loss that he couldn't fight his way through. He dated other people. He worked. The Order of the Phoenix, the first war against Voldemort. He fought beside people he loved, Sirius, Remus, Peter, and against people he hated, Death Eaters. Voldemort's forces and the fighting gave him purpose that the loss of Lily had taken. He grew up. This was the thing that the loss produced, the thing that, in the other timeline, Lily's eventual acceptance had produced. James Potter grew up. Not because Lily chose him, because Lily didn't. The rejection was the teacher that the acceptance would have been, and the lesson was the same. You are not entitled to another person's love, and the wanting of it does not create the right to it. By 1979, James Potter was a different man. Still brave, still funny, still possessed of the magnetic quality that made people follow him, but tempered. The arrogance was gone. Not suppressed, but genuinely absent, burned away by 2 years of processing a loss and by the war, which had a way of removing arrogance from everyone it touched. He found someone else. Not Lily. No one was going to be Lily. And James had accepted this with the hard-won maturity of someone who had finally learned the difference between wanting and deserving. Her name was Emmeline Vance. She was an Order member. Quiet, competent, steady in the way that Lily was vivid. They married in 1980. It was not the great love of James's life that had been Lily, always Lily. It was the good love. The kind that didn't burn but that warmed. The Snape marriage, what it was actually like Lily and Severus's marriage, was the most challenging relationship either of them would ever have, and the challenge was not the war. The challenge was Severus. Not because Severus was a bad husband. He was, by the specific standards of his capability, a devoted one. He came home. He was faithful. He worked potions research, initially for a private laboratory, then for St. Mungo's, where his talent was recognised even if his personality was not. He provided the things that a marriage required in the material sense. What he could not provide was ease. Severus Snape was not an easy person. He was not warm. He was not affectionate in the conventional sense. Physical touch was difficult for him. Emotional expression was difficult for him. The basic social lubrication that most couples deployed without thinking was, for Severus, a conscious, effortful practice that exhausted him. "You flinch when I touch you," Lily said in their first year of marriage. They were in the kitchen of the small house in Cokeworth, not Spinner's End, never Spinner's End, but a different house in the same town, because the town was what they could afford, and because Snape's relationship with Cokeworth was the relationship of someone who had nowhere else. "I don't flinch," Snape said. "You do," Lily said, "when I put my hand on your shoulder, when I hug you. The flinch is small, but it's there." "I'm not used to, I know," Lily said. "Your father wasn't, I know." "Don't talk about my father," Snape said. "Sev," Lily said. "If we're going to do this, the marriage, the life, we have to talk about the things that are difficult." "I prefer not to," Snape said. "I know you prefer not to," Lily said. "That's why we need to." The conversations about Tobias Snape, the Muggle father, the violence, the childhood that had produced the person Lily had married, were the hardest conversations of the marriage. Not because Snape refused to have them, he didn't refuse, because Lily asked, and because refusing Lily was the one thing Snape had decided he would not do. Because the having of them required Snape to access parts of himself that he had spent 15 years sealing away, and the accessing was painful in a way that no spell or hex or dark magic had ever been. "He hit you," Lily said. "He hit my mother," Snape said. "He hit me when I was in the way." "That's still hitting you," Lily said. "It's different," Snape said. "It's not different," Lily said. "It is to me," Snape said. "Being hit because you're the target is different from being hit because you're between the target and the fist. Both are abuse," Lily said. "One is personal," Snape said. "The other is incidental." "And which one hurts more?" Lily said. Snape was quiet for a long time. "The incidental," Snape said. "Because the incidental means you're not important enough to be the target." Lily reached for his hand. He flinched. She held it anyway, through the flinch, past the reflex, into the place where the holding was accepted and then wanted. "You're important," Lily said. "To you," Snape said. "To me," Lily said. "Is that enough?" Snape said. "It's a start," Lily said. The marriage was work. Daily, ongoing, unglamorous work. The work of two people who loved each other in different languages and who had to translate constantly. Lily's language was warmth, openness, the Evans family tradition of expressing love through touch and words, and the physical presence of someone who believed that love required demonstration. Snape's language was service, provision, the Snape family tradition, such as it was, of expressing love through what you did rather than what you said. They learned each other's languages. Slowly, imperfectly, Lily learned that when Snape brewed her a potion for her headache without being asked, that was, "I love you" in his dialect. Snape learned that when Lily put her hand on his shoulder. The correct response was not to flinch, but to lean into it, and the leaning was "I love you" in hers. It was hard. Every day. But the hard was not the same as bad, and the distinguishing between hard and bad was the work that made the marriage not just functional but genuine. The Order. Lily joined the Order of the Phoenix in 1978. Snape did not. This was the first serious conflict of the marriage. Lily wanted to fight, the war was real, Voldemort was killing people, and Lily Evans Snape was not a person who sat at home while other people fought for the things she believed in. "You want to join a resistance movement," Snape said, "run by Dumbledore." "I want to fight Voldemort," Lily said. "Through Dumbledore's organisation," Snape said, "which is staffed by people who hate me." "Not everyone in the Order. James Potter is in the Order," Snape said. "Sirius Black is in the Order. Remus Lupin is in the Order. The Marauders, the people who spent 5 years making my life miserable, are the Order's core members." "This isn't about them," Lily said. "It is partly about them," Snape said. You're asking me to be comfortable with you spending your evenings in a room with James Potter. I'm asking you to trust me, Lily said. The word trust sat between them. Trust was the foundation of their relationship, the trust that Lily had extended when she gave Snape one chance, the trust that Snape was maintaining by staying away from the dark arts. The trust was real, and it was strong, and it was being tested. I trust you, Snape said. I don't trust him. James has moved on, Lily said. He married Emmeline. James married Emmeline because he couldn't have you, Snape said. That's not moving on. That's settling. Sev? I know Potter. Snape said. I know how he looks at you. Marriage hasn't changed that. James is not a threat to us, Lily said. He's a threat to my ability to be in a room without wanting to hex something, Snape said. That's your problem to manage, Lily said. Not my reason to not join. I know, Snape said. I'm not asking you not to join. I'm asking you to understand why I can't join with you. Can't, Lily said. Or won't. Both, Snape said. Can't, because I would not be accepted. Won't, because I would not accept them. The Order fights Voldemort, Lily said. You oppose Voldemort. The enemy of your enemy is sometimes also your enemy, Snape said. Potter and I oppose Voldemort for different reasons. Potter opposes Voldemort because Potter is brave and moral and heroic. I oppose Voldemort because Voldemort's ideology would have me serve people who are less talented than I am, and my ego cannot accommodate that. Sev, Lily said, that's the most honest and most terrible thing you've ever said. I am frequently honest and terrible, Snape said. You married me anyway. I did, Lily said, and I'm joining the Order. I know, Snape said. Go fight Voldemort. I'll be here, brewing potions and managing my ego. That's a joke, Snape said. I'm told they're supposed to be funny. You're getting better at them, Lily said. One of us has to be, Snape said. Lily joined the Order. Snape stayed home. The arrangement was not ideal. Lily fought in the war while Snape brewed potions and maintained the house and managed the specific, grinding anxiety of a man whose wife was in danger every night and who could not go with her because the going would require him to be in a room with James Potter. The anxiety produced something unexpected. Snape developed potions for the Order, not as a member, as a supplier, healing draughts, antidotes, the specific advanced potions that combat situations required and that most brewers couldn't produce under the time pressure of a war. These are, Dumbledore, these are remarkable, said Mundungus Fletcher, examining a batch of healing draughts that Lily had brought to an Order meeting. My husband made them, Lily said. The room went quiet. The Order knew about the marriage. Everyone knew about the marriage. It had been the Wizarding World's most talked about union since the wedding. The idea that Severus Snape was supplying the Order with potions was unexpected. Snape is supplying us, James said. From across the table. His voice was controlled. Severus is supporting the cause, Lily said, through the means available to him. The means available to him include being in this room, James said. The means available to him include his extraordinary talent, Lily said, which is more useful in a laboratory than in a meeting. James looked at the potions, at the work of the man who had married the woman James loved, at the evidence that Snape's contribution to the war effort was not nothing, was, in fact, significant, because the healing draughts were saving lives that would otherwise be lost. They're good potions, James said. The sentence cost him something. The cost was visible. They are, Lily said. Tell him, James started, and stopped. Tell him they're good, Lily told Snape. Potter said my potions are good, Snape said. What a ringing endorsement. It's an acknowledgement, Lily said, from someone who hates you. His hatred is mutual, Snape said. His acknowledgement is unexpected. People change, Lily said. Potter hasn't changed, Snape said. He's matured. There's a difference." "Is there?" Lily said. "Change is internal," Snape said. "Maturity is the management of what's internal. Potter still hates me. He's just better at managing it." "And you?" Lily said. "Do you still hate him?" "I will hate James Potter until the day I die," Snape said. "But I can acknowledge that he's a competent wizard and a tolerable human being." "That's very generous of you," Lily said. "It's the most generous I'm capable of being," Snape said. "I'll take it," Lily said. "Let us know what you'd like to see next." The Child. Eileen Snape was born on January 9th, 1980, named for Severus's mother. The witch who had married a muggle and paid for it, who had endured Tobias Snape's violence and poverty and rage, and who had died when Severus was 16, worn down by a life that had offered her nothing except a son who was too angry to save her. Lily chose the name. She had never met Eileen. Because she understood, with the emotional intelligence that was her defining quality, that Severus needed to reclaim his mother's name from the wreckage of his childhood. The name Eileen in the Snape household had been a synonym for suffering. Lily wanted it to become a synonym for something else. "Eileen," Snape said, looking at the baby. The baby was small, dark-haired, with Lily's nose and Snape's eyes. The eyes were dark, not green, which Snape was privately grateful for because green eyes would have been Lily's, and the baby deserved to be her own person rather than a copy. "She looks like your mother," Lily said. "She looks like herself," Snape said. "That's a very fatherly thing to say," Lily said. "Don't tell anyone," Snape said. "I have a reputation." "As what?" Lily said. "As someone who doesn't say fatherly things," Snape said. The baby changed Snape. Not in the dramatic, overnight way that popular culture described fatherhood, the instant transformation from difficult person to devoted parent, in the slow, grinding, daily way that Snape did everything. Through practice, through repetition, through the accumulation of small actions that eventually became a pattern. He held the baby. This was difficult. Physical affection was difficult, had always been difficult, was going to be difficult for the rest of his life. But he held Eileen because Lily asked him to, and because refusing Lily was the thing he'd decided not to do, and because the holding, over time, stopped being an act of will and started being an act of want. He fed the baby. At 3 a.m, when Lily was exhausted, Snape would get up, would emerge from the bed without complaint, which was remarkable for a man who complained about everything, and would prepare the bottle with the precision of a potions master. Because preparing bottles was essentially preparing potions, and Snape was the best in the world at preparing potions. He talked to the baby. This was the most unexpected change. Snape, who spoke to most adults as if they were irritating interruptions to his internal monologue, talked to Eileen in a continuous, low, running commentary that covered everything from potions theory to the weather to his opinions about the neighbours. "The Henderson boy has left his bicycle on the pavement again," Snape said to 3-month-old Eileen, who was in his arms while he looked out the window. "This is the 3rd time this week. The boy has no respect for public thoroughfares." "She's 3 months old," Lily said from the kitchen. "She doesn't know what a thoroughfare is." "She will learn," Snape said. "Education begins early." "Education in bicycle etiquette?" Lily said. "Education in standards," Snape said. Lily watched Snape with the baby and saw something she had hoped for and had not been certain would arrive. The beginning of the unflinching. The baby touched Snape's face, the random, uncoordinated touching that babies did, and Snape did not flinch. The baby grabbed his hair, a frequent occurrence, given the length and accessibility of Snape's hair, and Snape did not flinch. The physical contact that had been Snape's lifetime difficulty was bypassed by the baby, because the baby didn't know about the difficulty, and because the not knowing was itself a form of permission. "He's teaching you," Lily said, one evening. "Teaching me what?" Snape said. "To be touched," Lily said. Snape looked at the baby in his arms, at Eileen, who was 5 months old and who was asleep against his chest with the complete, unconditional trust of a creature that had never been given a reason not to trust. "Perhaps," Snape said. "Not perhaps," Lily said. "Definitely you haven't flinched in a month." Snape considered this. The analytical mind, the same mind that had processed potions theory and dark arts classification and the social architecture of Slytherin House, processed the information about his own behaviour and produced a conclusion. "The baby doesn't know she's supposed to be afraid of me," Snape said. "Nobody is supposed to be afraid of you," Lily said. "Most people are," Snape said. "Most people don't know you," Lily said. "Most people know me well enough to be afraid," Snape said. "The baby knows you better than most people," Lily said. "And the baby isn't afraid." "The baby is incapable of fear," Snape said. "She's 5 months old." "The baby is incapable of pretense," Lily said. "Which is different. She doesn't pretend you're not frightening. She genuinely isn't frightened." Snape looked at his daughter. At the small, sleeping, not frightened person who had decided, without analysis or calculation or the social awareness that made everyone else cautious around him, that Severus Snape was a safe person to sleep on. "Remarkable," Snape said. "That's the most fatherly thing you've said yet," Lily said. "I said don't tell anyone," Snape said. The prophecy. The prophecy happened differently, because Snape was not in the Hog's Head to overhear it. In the original timeline, Snape had been eavesdropping on Dumbledore's interview with Trelawney, had heard the first half of the prophecy and reported it to Voldemort, which set in motion the targeting of the Potters and the events that led to Halloween 1981. In this timeline, Snape was at home in Cokeworth, with his wife and his baby daughter. He was not eavesdropping at the Hog's Head because he was not a Death Eater and had not been a Death Eater for 4 years and had no interest in what Dumbledore was doing at an interview in Hogsmeade. But the prophecy was still made. Trelawney still spoke the words. The born, as the 7th month dies, part still applied. There were still candidates. Neville Longbottom, born July 30th, and whatever other children were born to parents who had thrice defied Voldemort. The question, without Snape's report, did Voldemort learn about the prophecy? The answer, yes. Because Voldemort had other sources. Because the Hog's Head was not a secure location. Because the barman, Aberforth Dumbledore, who had thrown the eavesdropper out in the original timeline, mentioned the incident to his brother, and the information travelled through the Order, and the Order had a spy. Peter Pettigrew. Peter heard about the prophecy through Order channels. Peter reported to Voldemort. The information was second-hand, garbled, incomplete. Peter had heard about a prophecy, but not the exact words, had heard about a child born at the end of July, but not the specific qualifier about parents who had thrice defied. Voldemort, working from incomplete information, identified the Longbottoms, not the Potters, because the Snapes had a daughter born in January, not a son born in July, and because the Snapes had not thrice defied Voldemort, Lily had through the Order, but Snape had not, and the prophecy said parents, plural. The Longbottoms. Neville Longbottom became the boy who lived. Halloween 1981, the attack on the Longbottom house happened on October 31st, 1981. Voldemort went himself. The same arrogance, the same personal investment, the same insistence on doing the killing that the prophecy mandated. He went to the Longbottom house in the evening. After Peter Pettigrew had delivered the location, the Longbottoms were under the Fidelius charm. When the switch to Peter, as secret keeper, had been made on Sirius's recommendation, Sirius, who was the obvious choice, had suggested Peter as a decoy. The same fatal miscalculation that would have been made for the Potters in the other timeline. Frank Longbottom fought. Frank was an Auror, trained in combat, and his fighting was professional, not the desperate, scrambling resistance of someone surprised, but the structured, tactical response of a person who had been trained for exactly this scenario. Frank died in the entrance hall, casting his final spell at Voldemort, buying time. 12 seconds of time, which was the time it took Alice to reach Neville's room. Alice Longbottom stood between Voldemort and her son, the same position Lily had stood in the other timeline, the same choice: step aside or die. Step aside, Voldemort said. I only want the boy. He offered the choice not because anyone had asked him to spare Alice. No follower had begged for her life the way Snape might have begged for Lily's in another timeline. He offered because Voldemort enjoyed the offering. The power to grant life was, to him, as intoxicating as the power to take it. The theatrical cruelty of watching a mother choose between stepping aside and dying was a pleasure he indulged whenever the opportunity arose. Alice did not step aside. No, Alice said. The killing curse. Alice fell. Voldemort turned to Neville. The curse rebounded. Voldemort had not expected this. The offer, his casual, arrogant, performative offer, had created the condition that his knowledge of ancient magic should have warned him about. A genuine choice. A mother given the real option of survival who chose death instead. The sacrificial protection activated not because of a follower's plea, but because of Voldemort's own vanity. The same magic, the same ancient protection, triggered by Voldemort's arrogance rather than a servant's love. The killing curse bounced, the house exploded, Voldemort was destroyed, temporarily, fragmented, the Horcruxes holding him to a half-life. Neville Longbottom survived with a scar, not on his forehead, on his left cheek. A lightning bolt. The mark of the curse that failed. The wizarding world celebrated. The boy who lived. The child who had survived the killing curse. Neville Longbottom. Lily heard about it at midnight. Dumbledore's Patronus arrived at the house in Cokeworth, the Silver Phoenix, carrying the message. The Longbottoms have been attacked. Frank and Alice are dead. Neville survived. Voldemort is gone. Lily stood in the kitchen and read the message and felt. She didn't know what she felt. Relief that the war was over. Grief for the Longbottoms, who she had known through the Order, who had been colleagues and friends. Horror at the mechanism. A mother dying for her child. The same choice any mother would make. The choice Lily would have made. And underneath the relief and the grief and the horror, the cold, specific awareness that it could have been her. If Snape had been a Death Eater. If Snape had heard the prophecy. If Snape had reported it. If Voldemort had targeted the Snape child instead of the Longbottom child. If the word on the shore of the lake, 5 years ago, had been the last word. If Lily had walked away and not come. If Snape had gone to the Death Eaters and heard the prophecy and delivered it to Voldemort, the chain was visible. The chain of events that this timeline had broken. And the breaking had saved not just Lily's life, but the lives of her husband and her daughter. What is it? Snape said, coming into the kitchen. Eileen was asleep upstairs. The Longbottoms, Lily said. Voldemort attacked them. And, Snape said, Frank and Alice are dead, Lily said. Neville survived. Voldemort is gone. Snape stood in the kitchen and processed this. The processing was analytical, the Snape processing, the running of variables, the identification of implications. The prophecy, Snape said. The one Dumbledore mentioned, Voldemort targeted the Longbottoms because of a prophecy, Lily said. A child born at the end of July. Parents who had thrice defied him. The Longbottoms, Snape said. The Longbottoms, Lily said. Not us, Snape said. Not us, Lily said. The silence between them was the silence of two people understanding something that they would never say out loud, that the choice Snape had made at 15. The choice to walk away from the Death Eaters. the choice to choose Lily, had inadvertently saved their lives by removing Snape from the chain of events that would have put them in Voldemort's crosshairs. Snape had not saved them through heroism. He had saved them through absence, by not being where he would have been, by not hearing what he would have heard, by not delivering the information that would have targeted their family. The absence was the heroism. The not being there was the bravest thing Snape had ever done, and he had done it without knowing he was doing it. "Come to bed," Snape said. "In a minute," Lily said. "Lily," Snape said. "I'm thinking about Alice," Lily said, standing in front of her son. "I know," Snape said. "I would have done the same thing," Lily said. "I know," Snape said. "And you," she looked at him, "if it had been you and Eileen, if someone was coming for her, I would have done whatever was necessary," Snape said, "including dying." "You say that very calmly," Lily said. "I say it very honestly," Snape said. They went to bed. Eileen was asleep in the crib in the nursery, a crib that Lily had insisted on buying new, not inheriting, because new beginnings deserved new furniture. The crib was white. Eileen was asleep in it. Snape stood in the nursery doorway and looked at his sleeping daughter and thought about the chain. The chain that had started with a word on a lakeside and that had ended with him standing here, alive, married, a father, in a house that was not Spinner's End, watching a child sleep who would never know how close she'd come to not existing. "You chose me," Snape said to Lily, in the dark, on the floor of the corridor. "You could have walked away." "I almost did," Lily said. "I know," Snape said. "Every day I'm glad I didn't," Lily said. "Every day I try to deserve the not walking away," Snape said. "You do," Lily said. "Most days." "Most days," Snape said. "That's generous. That's honest," Lily said. "Your honesty and my generosity occupy the same territory," Snape said. "Good night, Sev," Lily said. "Good night, Lily," Snape said. The aftermath, Neville's world, the Wizarding World after Voldemort's fall, was shaped by Neville Longbottom the way the other timeline's world had been shaped by Harry Potter, which is to say, the world was shaped by a child who had no idea he was shaping it. Neville was raised by Augusta Longbottom, his grandmother. This was the same in both timelines. Frank and Alice were gone dead in this timeline rather than tortured to insanity, which was arguably kinder. Augusta was a formidable woman whose approach to child rearing was based on expectations rather than warmth. The boy who lived grew up differently from Harry Potter. Augusta would never have permitted such a thing, but not with the unconditional love that Harry had received from Hagrid, or from the Dursleys' neglect that had shaped Harry's resilience. Neville grew up with pressure. The pressure to live up to the parents who had died, the pressure to be worthy of the scar. Lily watched Neville grow up from a distance. Through the Order's remnants, through Dumbledore's network, through the maternal concern of a woman who understood that Neville's survival had been purchased with the same magic that would have protected her own daughter. "He's shy," Lily said to Snape after attending a gathering where 6-year-old Neville had been present. "Augusta pushes him, and he retreats. Augusta pushes everyone," Snape said. "It's her defining quality. He needs gentleness," Lily said. "Not pushing." "Not everyone has access to gentleness," Snape said. "We could offer," Lily said. "Offer what?" Snape said. "To parent Augusta Longbottom's grandson? She'd hex us on the doorstep." "To be present," Lily said. "To be people in his life who don't push." "You want to adopt the boy who lived," Snape said. "I want to be kind to a child who needs kindness," Lily said. "Those are different things," Snape said. "One of them is manageable, the other is a political nightmare." "I don't care about politics," Lily said. "I know," Snape said. "That's why I have to." They did not adopt Neville. They did become present. Lily visited Augusta, brought Eileen for playdates, provided the gentle, non-pushing presence that Neville needed and that Augusta, for all her virtues, could not provide. Neville and Eileen grew up as friends. The age difference, Neville was 6 months older, and the temperamental difference, Neville was gentle, where Eileen was fierce, created a natural distance. But friends, the kind of friends who saw each other at gatherings and played quietly in corners while the adults talked about things the children didn't understand. Hogwarts. Eileen's sorting. Eileen Snape arrived at Hogwarts on September 1st, 1991. She was 11, dark-haired, dark-eyed, with her mother's intelligence and her father's intensity, and a combination of the two that produced a person who was, by any available measure, formidable. The sorting was the question that everyone had been asking since Eileen's birth. Which house for the daughter of a Slytherin and a Gryffindor? The hat went on Eileen's head and said, "Oh, you're interesting. Is that good or bad?" Eileen thought. "Neither," the hat said. "It's interesting. You have your mother's courage, the willingness to stand up, the refusal to accept unfairness. You have your father's mind, the analytical depth, the precision, the ability to see the mechanism underneath the surface. Where do I go?" Eileen thought. "The question," the hat said, "is which quality is dominant? The courage or the mind?" "Both," Eileen thought. "Both is not a house," the hat said. "Then pick the one that will surprise people," Eileen thought. The hat considered this. "You want to surprise people." "My father was in Slytherin," Eileen thought. "Everyone expects me to be in Slytherin, or Gryffindor, because of my mother. Nobody expects the third option." "And what is the third option?" the hat said. "The house where the clever people go," Eileen thought. "The house where being smart isn't a weapon, it's a compass." "Ravenclaw," the hat said. The Great Hall reacted with the specific surprise of an audience whose predictions had all been wrong. Snape, who was sitting at the staff table, he had been teaching potions at Hogwarts since 1985, hired by Dumbledore because Dumbledore had never let a grudge interfere with talent acquisition, looked at his daughter walking toward the Ravenclaw table, and his expression did something that the students had never seen on it. He smiled. Not the Snape smile, the thin, controlled, usually predatory expression that the students associated with someone losing house points. A genuine smile. Small, brief, visible only to people who were watching closely. Lily was in the audience. Parents were permitted at the sorting ceremony, and she saw the smile and she knew what it meant. Snape was proud. Not because Eileen was in Ravenclaw specifically. Because Eileen had made a choice that was her own, that wasn't dictated by either parent's legacy. That was the choice of a person who had decided to be herself rather than a version of someone else. "Ravenclaw," Lily said afterward in Snape's office. "I didn't see that coming." "I did," Snape said. "She's been reading the dictionary since she was 6. "For fun." "You read the dictionary when you were 6, Lily said. "I read the Potions Encyclopedia," Snape said. "The dictionary is more varied." "She's going to be all right," Lily said. "She's going to be extraordinary," Snape said. "She's our daughter." "That's the second most fatherly thing you've ever said," Lily said. "What was the first?" Snape said. "When she was born," Lily said. "When you said she looks like herself." "She does look like herself," Snape said. "She looks like both of us," Lily said. "She looks like the best of both of us," Snape said, "which is a considerable improvement on either individual." "Sev," Lily said. "That was almost sweet." "Don't tell anyone," Snape said. "I tell everyone," Lily said. "Every time you say something sweet, I tell Minerva and Pomona and Phileas, and they all look surprised." "They should look surprised," Snape said. "Sweetness is an aberration in my character. Sweetness is a development in your character," Lily said. "Development implies improvement," Snape said. "I was already excellent." "You were already insufferable," Lily said. "The sweetness is the improvement." Snape, as teacher Severus Snape, as potions professor at Hogwarts, was different. Not different from the other timeline Snape in competence or knowledge. Different in temperament. The Snape of the other timeline had been bitter. The bitterness was structural, built from the loss of Lily, from the decades of spying, from the isolation and the self-hatred and the corrosive quality of a life spent serving a cause you despised while pretending to serve one you despised more. This Snape was not bitter. This Snape was married. This Snape had a daughter. This Snape went home every evening to a house in Hogsmeade where Lily was, and where the fire was, and where the bitterness, while still present, because bitterness was part of Snape's architecture, not a temporary condition, was managed by the presence of people who loved him. The difference showed in the classroom. This Snape was still demanding, still precise, still possessed of the particular quality of a teacher who expected excellence and who expressed disappointment in excellence not achieved with a cutting efficiency that left students feeling like they'd been surgically evaluated and found wanting. But this Snape did not bully. This was the distinction, the line between demanding and cruel that the other Snape had crossed routinely. This Snape stayed on the demanding side. He was not naturally kind. Because Lily had spent 15 years teaching him the difference, and because the teaching had produced, if not kindness, then the management of unkindness. Your shrinking solution is adequate, Snape told Neville Longbottom in a third-year potions class. The colour is correct. The consistency is acceptable. The execution was, however, unnecessarily anxious. Sir, Neville said. You were afraid of the potion, Longbottom, Snape said. Potions are not aggressive. They do not attack. Your nervousness transferred to the stirring, which produced micro-inconsistencies in the texture. How do I not be nervous? Neville said. By understanding that the potion is a system, Snape said. Systems are predictable. Predictable things are not frightening. You're not frightening either, sir, Neville said. When you explain things. Snape looked at Neville with an expression that the other timeline's Snape would never have worn. The expression of someone who had just been told they were not frightening, and who found the assessment both surprising and pleasant. 5 points to Gryffindor, Snape said, for adequate work and ill-considered honesty. The class stared. Snape giving points to Gryffindor was unprecedented in anyone's experience. Don't stare, Snape said. The potion won't stir itself. James and Snape, the impossible relationship James Potter and Severus Snape, occupied the same social world for 30 years without ever becoming friends. This was not surprising. The history was too deep. 5 years of school-level hostility, the bullying, the humiliation, the intimate cruelty that teenage boys deployed against each other when the stakes felt existential. The history could be managed. It could not be erased. What they achieved was something less than friendship and more than tolerance, a functional coexistence built on the mutual recognition that they both loved people who required them to not kill each other. James loved Lily, had always loved Lily, would always love Lily. The love had matured from the desperate, consuming thing of his youth into something quieter and more bearable, but it hadn't disappeared. James had accepted that Lily was Snape's wife. He had not accepted that Lily was not the centre of his emotional universe. Snape knew this. Snape knew it the way Snape knew most things. Through observation, through the analytical intelligence that catalogued human behaviour with the same precision it catalogued potion ingredients. He still loves you, Snape said to Lily after an Order reunion dinner where James had spent the entire evening not looking at Lily in a way that was, to Snape's assessment, louder than looking. I know, Lily said. Does that bother you? Snape said. Does it bother you? Lily said. Everything about James Potter bothers me, Snape said. His love for you is merely the most prominent item on a comprehensive list. You need to talk to him, Lily said. I need to do no such thing, Snape said. You work in the same school, Lily said. James had taken the Transfiguration position in 1989. McGonagall, as deputy headmistress, had reduced her teaching load after a decade in the Auror office. You see each other every day. You can't spend 30 years not having the conversation. I've spent 30 years not having the conversation, Snape said. The streak is impressive. Sev, Lily said. The conversation will not be pleasant, Snape said. Important conversations rarely are, Lily said. I would rather brew a cauldron of Veritaserum than have a conversation with James Potter about feelings, Snape said. Noted, Lily said. Have the conversation. Snape had the conversation. In the staff room. After hours, with 2 cups of tea and the enormous reluctance of a man who was doing something because his wife had told him to, and who was going to make his displeasure known through every available non-verbal channel. Lily says I need to talk to you, Snape said. Lily says I need to talk to you, James said. Apparently, she told both of us. That's very Lily, Snape said. That's very Lily, James agreed. They looked at each other across the staff room table. 2 men in their 30s, colleagues, once enemies, connected by a woman whose decisions had shaped both their lives. You still love her, Snape said. Yes, James said. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I'm not asking you to pretend, Snape said. I'm asking you to manage it. I've been managing it for 14 years, James said. I married someone else. I have a life. I don't interfere with your marriage. You look at her, Snape said. I look at everyone, James said. You look at her differently, Snape said. Probably, James said. And I'd apologize for it if I could control it. But I can't. The looking is involuntary. I know the looking is involuntary, Snape said. I'm not accusing you of anything, Potter. I'm trying to have the conversation that Lily says we need to have. About what? James said. About coexistence, Snape said. About working in the same school for the rest of our careers without the hostility. I thought we were managing the hostility, James said. We're managing it badly, Snape said. The students can tell. The students think we're rivals, James said. We are rivals, Snape said. We've been rivals since we were 11, and we're 35, James said. Are we going to be rivals at 50? I would prefer not to be, Snape said. And the sentence cost him something visible, the admission that the rivalry was exhausting, that the maintaining of it required energy that he'd rather spend elsewhere. I'd prefer not to be either, James said. So, what? We become friends? We become colleagues, Snape said, who don't hate each other. That seems achievable. Colleagues who don't hate each other, James said. You're setting a low bar. I'm setting a realistic bar, Snape said. I am not going to like you, Potter. I am on my best days going to tolerate you. If we can both commit to mutual toleration, the students will stop whispering about us and Lily will stop forcing us to have conversations in staff rooms. Mutual toleration, James said. With the option to upgrade if circumstances improve? The option exists, Snape said. I would not wager on its exercise. That's the most Snape thing you've ever said, James said. I am frequently the most Snape thing in any room, Snape said. James almost smiled. The almost was visible, the suppression of a response that James's body wanted to produce, and that his mind overrode because smiling at Snape's joke felt like a betrayal of 15 years of hostility. All right, James said. Mutual toleration. Starting now. Starting now, Snape said. They stood up. They shook hands. The handshake was brief, formal, and the most physical contact they'd had since the last time they'd hexed each other at Hogwarts. This doesn't mean I like you, Snape said. This doesn't mean I forgive you for marrying her, James said. Fair, Snape said. Fair, James said. They went to their respective offices. The conversation was over. The relationship had been defined, not friendship, not hostility. Mutual toleration. the minimum viable emotional product. It was not warm. It was functional. And functional, between Severus Snape and James Potter, was a triumph of diplomacy that Dumbledore himself might have been proud of. Eileen at Hogwarts. Eileen Snape at Hogwarts was the person her parents had made. Brilliant, fierce, analytically precise, emotionally direct, and possessed of the demanding quality of a child who had grown up with Severus Snape's standards and Lily Evans's warmth. She was in Ravenclaw, where her intelligence was valued. She was friends with Neville Longbottom, who was in Gryffindor, and whose friendship with Eileen was the friendship of two people who had been connected since childhood, and who didn't let house boundaries define them. "Your dad is terrifying," Neville said, in the corridor after potions, first year. "My dad is precise," Eileen said. "There's a difference. He told me my potion was adequate," Neville said. "Is that good?" "From my father, adequate is outstanding," Eileen said. "He told Professor Flitwick that his charm work was passable once, and Flitwick considered it the highest compliment he'd received in 20 years. "Your dad's compliments are insults to other people," Neville said. "My dad's compliments are encoded," Eileen said. "You have to read the subtext." "I'm not good at subtext," Neville said. "I'll translate," Eileen said. "Adequate means he thinks you have potential. Acceptable means you've achieved something. Not entirely dreadful means you've impressed him." "Has anyone ever impressed him?" Neville said. "My mother," Eileen said. "Every day." "That's actually sort of sweet," Neville said. "Don't tell him I said that," Eileen said. "He has a reputation." "Everyone keeps saying that," Neville said. The long peace. The years after Voldemort's fall were the years of the long peace, the same peace that in the other timeline was interrupted by Voldemort's return. In this timeline, the peace was also interrupted, because Voldemort had made Horcruxes, and the Horcruxes meant the peace was temporary. But the interruption came later, and it came differently. Dumbledore spent the 1980s and 1990s hunting Horcruxes. This was the same project as the other timeline, the systematic identification and destruction of the soul fragments that kept Voldemort anchored to existence. But the hunting was done differently, because Dumbledore had more time and more resources, and a potions master who, while not a spy, was willing to provide analytical support. "This ring," Dumbledore said, placing the gaunt ring on Snape's laboratory table in 1994. "It is cursed. The curse is embedded in the stone." Snape examined the ring with the analytical attention that he brought to everything. "The curse is dark. Very old. Designed to kill the wearer slowly, the withering starts at the point of contact and spreads. Can it be removed?" Dumbledore said. "The curse can be contained," Snape said. "Not removed. The magic is too deeply embedded. But contained, slowed, managed. How long?" Dumbledore said. "If you don't touch it?" "Indefinitely," Snape said. "If you touch it, months, perhaps a year, with aggressive treatment." "I see," Dumbledore said. "Professor," Snape said, "I would recommend strongly against touching the ring. The ring contains something I need," Dumbledore said. "Then remove the something without touching the ring," Snape said. "Can that be done?" Dumbledore said. "Everything can be done," Snape said. "Some things require more creativity than others." Snape developed a method for destroying the Horcrux without touching the cursed stone. This was pure Snape. The analytical problem-solving, the potions-based approach, the creative intelligence of a man whose solution to every problem started with "what if I brewed something?" The ring's Horcrux was destroyed. Dumbledore's hand was not cursed. Dumbledore lived. This was the gift of the long peace. Time. Time for Dumbledore to hunt Horcruxes methodically rather than desperately. Time for Snape to contribute through expertise rather than through espionage. Time for the world to prepare for Voldemort's return without the panic that insufficient preparation produced. By the time Voldemort returned, in 1997, through the mechanisms that Horcrux magic provided, the wizarding world was better prepared. The Horcruxes had been identified. Most had been destroyed. The Order was intact. Dumbledore was alive. The war was shorter. The cost was lower. The victory was more complete. Voldemort's end. The final battle happened at Hogwarts in May of 1998. The same location, the same stakes, the same fundamental confrontation between Voldemort and the world he was trying to destroy. Neville Longbottom stood at the centre of it. The boy who lived, who was 17, who had grown up under Augusta's pressure and Eileen's friendship, and the quiet preparation of a boy who had known since childhood that the war was coming and that the war was his. Snape fought, not as a spy. There was no spying to do, no double game, no 2-decade deception. As a combatant, a teacher protecting his school, a father protecting his daughter. The fighting was the part that Snape had not expected to be good at. He had expected to be competent. His knowledge of dark magic, even unpracticed, was encyclopedic, and his defensive capabilities were considerable. He had not expected to be effective in the way that battle required, aggressive, decisive, willing to act rather than analyse. But the school was under attack. His students were in danger. Eileen was in the castle. Snape fought with the cold, precise, devastating efficiency of a man who had spent 20 years managing his capacity for violence, and who was now, for the first time, deploying it without restraint. Professor Snape just threw a Death Eater through a wall, a 6th year reported to McGonagall. Which wall? McGonagall said. The one in the Charms corridor, the 6th year said. Was the Death Eater disarmed? McGonagall said. The Death Eater was unconscious, the 6th year said. Good, McGonagall said. The Charms corridor was due for renovation anyway. Neville faced Voldemort. The confrontation was Neville's, the boy who lived, the child of the prophecy, the person whose survival as an infant had been the beginning of Voldemort's end. Neville was not Harry Potter. Neville was not marked by a Horcrux, was not connected to Voldemort through a scar, did not speak Parcel tongue. Neville was a boy whose strength was not magical power but moral courage. The willingness to stand up when standing up was the hardest thing in the world. The sword of Gryffindor came to Neville because the sword came to the person who was worthy, and Neville was worthy in every timeline. The snake died. The last Horcrux. Voldemort fell, not to Neville alone, to the accumulated effort of 20 years of Dumbledore's Horcrux hunt, of the Order's preparation, of the school's defence. Voldemort fell because the system that opposed him had been given time to prepare, and the time had been used well. Snape watched Voldemort die from the Charms corridor, standing over the unconscious Death Eater he'd put through the wall, and he felt nothing, not satisfaction, not vindication, not the closure that stories promised. He felt tired. He went to find his wife and his daughter, and he went home. The after was quiet. This was the thing about the after. In every timeline, regardless of how the war was won, the after was quiet. The noise of the battle faded, and the work of rebuilding began, and the rebuilding was ordinary in a way that the war had not been. Snape continued teaching. Snape's relationship with teaching was the relationship of a man who was extremely good at something he found moderately annoying, but because Hogwarts was home, and because the students, however irritating, were the future, and because Lily had said once that Snape's teaching was the best thing he could do for the world. You make them better, Lily had said. Every student who comes through your classroom leaves knowing more than they did when they entered. That's important, Sev. They leave traumatized, Snape said. They leave educated, Lily said. Trauma is an educational method. That's a terrible thing to say, Snape said. I learned it from you, Lily said. Lily worked at the Ministry, the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, where her combination of intelligence and principle made her the most effective reformer the department had seen in decades. She pushed for Muggle-born rights, for creature protection, for the systemic changes that the post-war world needed, and that the pre-war world had been too afraid to make. Eileen graduated from Hogwarts with the highest marks in her year and went into magical research, the academic path, the life of the mind, the career that combined her father's precision with her mother's passion. She's like you, Lily said to Snape, watching Eileen present her first research paper at a conference. She's like you, Snape said. The passion, the insistence, the refusal to accept the world as it is. She's like both of us, Lily said. She's like the best of both of us, Snape said. You said that when she was born, Lily said. It's still true, Snape said. The last conversation. Years later. Many years. Enough years that the war was history, and the school was the school, and the students were children of children. Lily and Severus sat in their house in Hogsmeade, the house they'd lived in since Snape started teaching, the house that had been too small at first and that had been expanded through magic and through the specific, ongoing accumulation of books and potions equipment and the evidence of two people who had spent decades living together. Sev, Lily said. Yes, Snape said. Do you remember the corridor? Lily said. Which corridor? Snape said. We've been in many corridors. The one outside the Gryffindor common room, Lily said. The night I gave you one chance. I remember, Snape said. Would you do it again? Lily said. Do what? Snape said. Choose me, Lily said. If you could go back, if you were on the floor of the corridor again, would you choose me? Snape looked at her. At Lily Evans' Snape, who was older now, who was the age they both were, who had been his wife for decades and who was asking, with the directness that had never changed, whether the choice he'd made at 15 was the choice he'd make again. Every time, Snape said. Even knowing the cost, Lily said. The isolation, the Slytherin friends you lost, the dark arts you gave up, the path you didn't take. The path I didn't take led to Voldemort, Snape said. The path I took led to you. That's very romantic for a man who claims to hate romance, Lily said. I don't hate romance, Snape said. I hate the performative aspects of romance. The genuine aspects I find? Tolerable. Tolerable, Lily said. After 30 years of marriage, I'm tolerable. You are the most tolerable person I have ever met, Snape said, which is, in my vocabulary, the highest compliment available. Your vocabulary needs work, Lily said. My vocabulary is extensive, Snape said. My willingness to deploy it emotionally is limited. I know, Lily said. I've always known. And you chose me anyway, Snape said. I gave you one chance, Lily said. You made it count. Snape took her hand, without flinching. The unflinching that Eileen had taught him as a baby, that Lily had reinforced over decades, that had become not natural, because nothing about physical contact was natural for Severus Snape, but chosen. Deliberately, consciously, with the full awareness that the choosing was an act of will and that the will was love. One chance, Snape said. One chance, Lily said. The house was quiet. The fire was low. Outside, Hogsmeade did what Hogsmeade did. The shops, the students on weekends, the ordinary life of a wizarding village that existed because a school existed, and because the school was the school, and the school was home. They were home. Together, alive in a world that had been saved partly through Snape's absence, through the chain of events that his choice had broken, and partly through the slow, grinding, daily work of two people who had decided at 15 that they were going to try. The trying had not been enough. The trying had been everything. He said the word. The word was in him, put there by friends and circumstance and the desperate need to belong somewhere. She heard the word. She walked away. She came back. One chance. That was the deal. One chance, and the chance required everything. The friends, the path, the dark arts, the belonging. All of it traded for the possibility of something better. He traded it. Not gracefully, not easily, with the specific, grinding, graceless difficulty of a person who was not built for change, and who changed anyway because the person he loved asked him to. She married him. Not because he was easy or warm or the person anyone expected her to choose, because he was the person she saw clearly and chose deliberately and loved with the full awareness that the loving was going to be hard every day. They had a daughter. The daughter was the best of both of them, which was a considerable improvement on either individual. They survived a war. Not through heroism, through absence. Through the chain of events that his choice had broken. The prophecy that was not delivered. The target that was not chosen. They lived. In a house in Hogsmeade, with a fire and books and the quiet, ongoing, unglamorous work of two people who had spent 30 years learning to hold hands without flinching. One chance. One word not being the last. That was enough. That was everything. Let us know what you'd like to see next. Expanded Thread Spinner's End, where it started, the story of Lily and Severus started at 9, in a playground between two worlds. Cokeworth was a mill town. Grey. Industrial. The kind of place that existed because a factory existed, and that would decline when the factory did. The Evans family lived on the good side of town, the side with gardens and painted fences and the respectable quality of a family that maintained appearances, because appearances were what you had when you didn't have money. The Snapes lived on the other side. Spinner's End, a row of terraced houses near the river, dark. The kind of street where the houses leaned toward each other as if conspiring. Tobias Snape drank. Eileen Snape endured. Severus Snape watched. The playground was between the two sides, the space where a girl who could make flowers close in her palm met a boy who could make leaves flutter without wind, and who said, with the absolute certainty of someone who had been waiting to say this for years, "You're a witch." "That's not a nice thing to say," Lily said. "It's a true thing," Severus said. "You have magic." "Magic isn't real," Lily said. "Watch," Severus said, and he made the leaf spin. The friendship started there, at 9, in a playground, between a girl who didn't know what she was and a boy who did. The friendship was the first good thing in Severus Snape's life, and the ferocity with which he protected it was proportional to the poverty of everything else. They spent 2 years in the playground and in the spaces between their houses. Severus told Lily about Hogwarts, about the wizarding world, about the magic that was inside both of them and that would, when they were 11, take them somewhere extraordinary. The telling was Severus at his best, enthusiastic, knowledgeable, generous with information in a way he was generous with nothing else. Lily listened with the specific, absorptive attention of a child who was being given the explanation for something she'd always felt, that she was different. But the things she could do, the flowers, the floating, the small, inexplicable events that followed her like weather, were not wrong, but magical. And that the magic had a name and a world and a school. "You'll love it," Severus said. "Hogwarts, it's everything. Will we be in the same house?" Lily said. "I hope so," Severus said. They weren't. The sorting put Lily in Gryffindor and Severus in Slytherin, and the separation was the first crack, not because the houses were inherently incompatible, but because the houses contained people who were, and because Severus, who had no other friends and no other source of belonging, found in the Slytherin common room the acceptance that the rest of the world had denied him. The acceptance came with conditions. The conditions were ideological, blood status, dark magic, the hierarchy that Slytherin house maintained with the precision of a social caste system. Severus absorbed the conditions because the conditions were the price of the acceptance, and because a boy who had been denied acceptance for 11 years would pay almost any price for it. Almost any price. The price he would not pay was Lily, until the day he did. What Snape gave up when Severus chose Lily over the Slytherin group? He gave up more than friends. He gave up belonging. This was the thing that people who hadn't lived Snape's life didn't understand. The Slytherin group, Mulciber, Avery, Rosier, the constellation of pureblood students who had welcomed a half-blood from Spinner's End because his talent was too valuable to exclude, had been Snape's family. The biological family was Tobias's fists and Eileen's silence, which was Tobias's fists and Eileen's silence, the chosen family. The people who had said, "You're one of us." The saying had been conditional. The condition was ideological conformity, believe what we believe, practice what we practice, despise who we despise. And the condition had ultimately required Snape to despise the person he loved, which was the condition he couldn't meet. But the belonging had been real. The late-night conversations in the common room, the shared study sessions, the camaraderie of people who understood each other's ambitions and who competed with the intense, productive rivalry that Slytherin House cultivated. The belonging had been the first community Snape had ever had, and walking away from it was walking away from the only place in the world where he'd been wanted. The walking away produced isolation that was qualitatively different from the isolation of his childhood. The childhood isolation had been the isolation of someone who didn't belong anywhere. The post-choice isolation was the isolation of someone who had belonged somewhere and had given it up. The difference was the memory. The knowledge of what belonging felt like, which made the absence of it worse. Snape handled the isolation how he handled everything, through work. Potions study. Library research. The obsessive, all-consuming, 16 hours a day immersion in magical knowledge that was Snape's survival mechanism and that produced, over the remaining 2 years of school, the extraordinary body of work that would eventually make him the most talented potions master of his generation. "You work too much," Lily said, in 7th year. "There's no such thing as working too much," Snape said. "There is when you're using work to avoid feeling the isolation," Lily said. "I'm not isolated," Snape said. "I have you, you have me," Lily said, "and you need more than me." "I've established that I don't need more than you," Snape said. "We've had this conversation. We'll keep having it," Lily said, "until you make a friend." "A friend?" Snape said. "You're suggesting I acquire a friend." "I'm suggesting you let someone in besides me," Lily said. "Letting you in required 15 years of proximity and a life-altering ultimatum," Snape said. "I don't have that kind of time for a second person." "You're being difficult on purpose," Lily said. "I'm being difficult as a natural consequence of my personality," Snape said. "The on purpose is incidental." He did, eventually, make a friend. One, Madame Pince, the Hogwarts librarian, who had left blankets on his chair during the library's sleeping weeks, and who had, through this single act of unannounced kindness, established herself as the only person besides Lily who Snape trusted with his presence. The friendship with Pince was not warm. It was the friendship of two people who valued silence, books, and the structured environment of a library, who communicated through proximity rather than conversation, who expressed affection through the exchange of reading recommendations, and who had found in each other the particular rare quality of a person who didn't require you to perform. "You've been reading Jigger's 3rd edition," Pince said one evening. The methodology chapter is flawed, Snape said. The methodology chapter is the best part, Pince said. Then you and I have different standards, Snape said. Obviously, Pince said. Tea? Please, Snape said. This was the friendship. Tea and books and the absence of performance. It was enough. It was, for Snape, the maximum available. Lily in the Order, what she did Lily Evans Snape's work in the Order of the Phoenix was not the dramatic, combat-heavy contribution of the Order's frontline fighters. It was the strategic, analytical, behind-the-scenes work of someone whose intelligence was her primary weapon. She mapped the Death Eater network, using the skills she developed at Hogwarts, the research methodology, the pattern recognition, the ability to connect disparate pieces of information into a coherent picture. Lily built the most comprehensive intelligence picture of Voldemort's organization that the Order had ever possessed. How do you know this? Dumbledore said, examining Lily's latest briefing. The briefing included names, locations, supply chains, and the specific financial flows that funded the Death Eater operation. Research, Lily said. Public records, Gringotts transaction data, social connections. This is, Lily, this is the work of an intelligence analyst, not a researcher, Dumbledore said. Intelligence analysis is research, Lily said, applied to a different problem. You've identified 17 Death Eater financial networks, Dumbledore said. The Ministry's intelligence service has identified 3. The Ministry's intelligence service doesn't have access to Muggle financial records, Lily said. I do, because I'm Muggle-born. Because I know how the Muggle world works. Because the thing the purebloods think is my weakness is actually my advantage. Dumbledore looked at her with the blue eyes that did the assessment thing. Your husband said something similar once, Dumbledore said, about the classification of dark magic being a tool of power rather than a measure of danger. Severus is right about most things, Lily said. He's wrong about the things that matter, which is why I'm the one doing the Order work. The things that matter being people, Lily said. Severus is right about systems and wrong about people. I'm right about people and mediocre about systems. Together, we cover the spectrum. You complement each other, Dumbledore said. We argue with each other, Lily said. Complementing is a side effect. The intelligence work saved lives. The financial networks Lily identified led to the disruption of Death Eater supply chains. The social connections she mapped allowed the Order to anticipate attacks. The pattern analysis she developed, the specific Lily method of looking at who was talking to whom and when and why, produced early warnings that prevented at least 4 major attacks during the war. She's the most valuable person in the Order, Moody said to Dumbledore, and she doesn't carry a wand in battle. She carries something more dangerous, Dumbledore said. A filing system. James and Emmeline. James Potter's marriage to Emmeline Vance was the good marriage. James had one great love, and it was Lily, and the great love was done. The good marriage was the marriage that happened after the great love, the marriage built on respect and compatibility, and the mature decision of 2 people who had decided that good was sufficient because great was not available. Emmeline was an aura. Quiet, competent, steady, the qualities that were the opposite of Lily's vividness, and that James, in his maturity, recognized as the qualities he needed rather than the qualities he wanted. Emmeline didn't burn. She warmed. And James, who had spent 2 years being burned by the loss of Lily, needed warmth. You're still thinking about her, Emmeline said in their first year of marriage. Sometimes, James said. I can live with sometimes, Emmeline said. I can't live with always. It's not always, James said. It's decreasing. Decreasing is good, Emmeline said. Tell me when it reaches acceptable. What's acceptable? James said. When you think about her and it doesn't hurt, Emmeline said. That might take a while, James said. I've got time, Emmeline said. Emmeline's patience was not the dramatic, sacrificial patience of a person martyring themselves for a love triangle. It was the practical patience of someone who understood that she had married a person with a history, and that the history was going to be present in the marriage, and that managing the presence was part of the deal. They had a son, James Sirius Potter, born in 1981, named for James's father, who was also named James, and for Sirius, who was the godfather and who was present at the birth with the overwhelming enthusiasm of someone who had been waiting to be a godfather since he was 12. "He's got your hair," Sirius said, looking at the baby. "Poor kid," James said. "And Emmeline's eyes," Sirius said. "Which is better?" "Your eyes were always too confident." "Eyes can't be confident," James said. "Yours were," Sirius said. "They walked into rooms before you did." James Sirius grew up as the son of James Potter and Emmeline Vance, and Aura's son, raised in a household that was stable and warm and completely unlike the household that Harry Potter had grown up in the other timeline. James Sirius never lived in a cupboard. James Sirius never felt unloved. James Sirius grew up in the ordinary, unglamorous comfort of a family that functioned. The ordinariness was James's gift to his son, the gift of a childhood that was not defined by loss or prophecy or the weight of being the boy who lived. James Sirius was nobody special, in the best possible sense. He was a boy with messy hair and his mother's calm and his father's talent for getting into trouble, and he was fine. James was fine. The great love had not happened. The good love had. And the good love had produced a life that was fine, not the life of a story, not the life of a legend, the life of a person who had lost the thing he wanted most and who had built something real from what remained. Fine was enough. Snape and his daughter, the daily life of Severus Snape as a father, was the most surprising element of a life that had contained many surprises. He was precise. This was expected. Snape was precise about everything. The nappy changes were efficient. The feeding schedule was maintained with the exactness of a potion's timetable. The bedtime routine was structured, consistent, and executed with the methodology of someone who had read 3 parenting books, Lily's suggestion, and who had synthesized their recommendations into a protocol. "You've created a bedtime protocol," Lily said, reading the parchment Snape had pinned to the nursery wall. "Step 1, bath, Snape read. Step 2, pyjamas. Step 3, story, 1 chapter, no more. Step 4, lights reduced to 40%. Step 5, good night." "Step 3 says 1 chapter, no more," Lily said. "What if she wants 2? "The protocol says 1, Snape said. "She's 2, Lily said. "She doesn't know about protocols." "Then she'll learn," Snape said. The protocol lasted 3 days. On the 4th night, Eileen said more, "Da," after the chapter ended, and Snape read another chapter because Eileen had said "Da," and because the sound of his daughter calling him "Da" was the one variable the protocol hadn't accounted for. "The protocol is flexible," Snape said to Lily the next morning. "The protocol is abandoned," Lily said. "The protocol is responsive to stakeholder feedback," Snape said. "The stakeholder is 2, Lily said. 2-year-olds are the most demanding stakeholders," Snape said. He read to Eileen every night. Snape considered most children's literature intellectually insufficient and read instead from potions texts, which Eileen couldn't understand, but which she listened to with the focused, absorbed attention of a child who was hearing her father's voice and who didn't care about the content. "You're reading her the Wiggenweld potion preparation method," Lily said, from the doorway. "She finds it soothing," Snape said. "She finds your voice soothing," Lily said. "She'd listen to you read the dictionary." "The dictionary is less soothing," Snape said. "Too many hard consonants." "Sev," Lily said. "You're a good father." "I'm an adequate father," Snape said. "You're a good father who can't accept that he's good," Lily said. "I'm a precise father," Snape said. Precision and goodness are correlated but not identical. They're the same thing in your case, Lily said. If you say so, Snape said. I do, Lily said. Good night, precise father. Good night, tolerant mother, Snape said. He continued reading the potion's text to Eileen. The child was asleep by the second paragraph. Snape read 2 more paragraphs anyway because the reading was not for Eileen. The reading was for him. The reading was the act of sitting beside his daughter's bed and speaking words and being present, and the being present was the thing that Tobias Snape had never done, and that Severus Snape was going to do every night for the rest of his life, because the doing was the repair. Not the repair of Eileen. Eileen was not broken. The repair of himself. The nightly, ongoing, 1 chapter at a time repair of a man who had been raised without love and who was teaching himself to provide it through the only method available to him: practice. What Neville carried Neville Longbottom, the boy who lived, carried the scar on his left cheek and the weight of 2 dead parents and the expectations of the entire wizarding world with the quiet, patient, stubborn endurance that was his defining quality. He was not Harry Potter. In every timeline where the prophecy existed, the person at its centre was defined by the thing they did best: Harry's bravery, Neville's endurance. Harry ran toward danger. Neville stood still in front of it. Both approaches required courage. Both approaches were valid. The difference was temperament, not value. Neville's Hogwarts years were different from Harry's in ways that the prophecy couldn't predict. He was in Gryffindor. This was the same. The hat saw the courage underneath the shyness, the steel underneath the uncertainty. But Neville's Gryffindor experience was different because Neville didn't have a Voldemort trying to kill him every year. The Horcruxes had been found and destroyed by Dumbledore over the decade of the Long Peace. The yearly crises that had defined Harry's schooling, the stone, the chamber, the tournament, either didn't happen or happened differently. Neville had a childhood, a real one, with homework and Quidditch and the ordinary, beautiful, completely unglamorous experience of being a student at a school that wasn't under siege. Eileen was part of this childhood. They studied together in the library, Eileen in Ravenclaw robes, Neville in Gryffindor, the 2 of them occupying a table near the window that became, by 3rd year, unofficially theirs. You're better at herbology than me, Eileen said. And I'm better at everything else. That's not, Neville started. It's approximately true, Eileen said. Your herbology work is at a professional level. Your potions work is at a level. Your father says my potions work is adequate, Neville said. From my father, adequate is a standing ovation, Eileen said. He gave me 5 points once, Neville said. I nearly fell off my stool. He gives points to people he respects, Eileen said. He respects about 4 people. Who are the other 3? Neville said. My mother, Madam Pince, and Dumbledore, Eileen said. In that order. I'm on a list with Dumbledore, Neville said. Below Madam Pince, Eileen said. But on the list. Neville's friendship with Eileen was the friendship that grounded both of them. Neville in the weight of the prophecy, Eileen in the weight of being Severus Snape's daughter. They shared the bonding experience of having parents who cast long shadows and of learning, together, to stand in their own light. The battle, what Neville did. When Voldemort returned and the battle came to Hogwarts, Neville did what Neville always did. He stood up. The standing was not dramatic. Neville's courage was never dramatic. It was the quiet, persistent, unmovable kind. The kind that planted its feet and refused to be pushed, and that was, in the end, the most dangerous kind of courage, because it couldn't be broken. He stood in the courtyard. The snake was in front of him. The hat was burning on his head. The sword came. Neville drew the sword of Gryffindor from the burning hat and killed Nagini with a single strike. The strike was clean. The strike was Neville, No flourish, no drama, just the thing that needed doing, done. Eileen was in the castle. She had been fighting, the Ravenclaw contingent, defending the upper floors, using the analytical combat techniques that her father had taught her, because Snape had taught his daughter to fight the same way he'd taught everything, precisely, thoroughly, without sentiment. She saw Neville through the window, saw him draw the sword, saw the snake die. "That's Neville," Eileen said to the Ravenclaw beside her. "The boy who lived," the Ravenclaw said. "No," Eileen said, "that's Neville." The distinction mattered to Eileen because the distinction mattered to Neville. He was not the boy who lived first. He was Neville first. The scar, the prophecy, the expectations, those were things that had been done to him. Neville was the thing underneath. After the battle, Eileen found Neville sitting on the steps outside the Great Hall. The sword was on his lap. His face was doing something that Eileen recognised because she'd seen the same expression on her father's face. The expression of someone who had done something extraordinary and who was trying to process the extraordinary as ordinary. "You killed the snake," Eileen said. "Yeah," Neville said. "With a sword," Eileen said. "Yeah," Neville said. "That you pulled from a burning hat," Eileen said. "The hat was very unpleasant," Neville said. "I'm going to need new hair," Neville, Eileen said. You ended the war." "I killed a snake," Neville said. "A lot of people ended the war." "You specifically ended it," Eileen said, "with a sword." "It was the only weapon available," Neville said. "You could have run," Eileen said. "No," Neville said. "I couldn't have." "Why not?" Eileen said. "Because my parents died so I could stand there," Neville said. "Running would have been wasting what they gave me." Eileen sat beside him, on the steps, with the sword between them and the castle behind them and the dawn coming up over the grounds. "My father said something to me once," Eileen said. "He said, the bravest thing he ever did was choose my mother." "Professor Snape said that?" Neville said. "He said it at the dinner table," Eileen said. "And then he said don't tell anyone because he has a reputation." "Everyone knows about his reputation," Neville said. "Everyone knows about the exterior," Eileen said. "The interior is different." "What's the interior?" Neville said. "A man who chose love over power," Eileen said. "Every day. For 30 years. Neville looked at the sword on his lap, at the weapon that had come to him because he was worthy, because he had chosen to stand when standing was the thing that required everything. "That's brave," Neville said. "It's the same kind of brave as what you did," Eileen said. "Just slower." "I think your dad would hate being compared to me," Neville said. "My dad respects you," Eileen said. "You're on the list. Below Madam Pince," Neville said. "Below Madam Pince," Eileen confirmed. "But on the list." They sat on the steps and watched the sun come up. Two children of the war, one who had been marked by it, one who had been shaped by its absence. Both of them the products of choices their parents had made, Neville's parents choosing to die for him, Eileen's father choosing to live for her mother. Different choices. Same love. Same courage. Different expressions of the same quality that the hat had seen in Neville and that Lily had seen in Severus. The willingness to do the hard thing, because the hard thing was the right thing. The sun came up over Hogwarts. The war was over. The world was beginning the long process of rebuilding. On the steps, two young people sat together and watched and didn't speak, and the not speaking was enough, because some mornings said everything without words. A word on a lakeside. A girl who walked away. A boy who followed. He turned around. One more time. One more chance. He took the chance. He gave up the friends and the path and the belonging that the friends provided because the girl was worth more than the belonging and because she had told him, choose. He chose. Every day for 30 years, he chose. Through the isolation and the war and the marriage and the child and the teaching and the fighting and the quiet, ordinary, unremarkable days that constituted the actual texture of a life, he chose her. She chose him. The choosing was not romantic, it was not easy, it was not the choice that anyone else would have made or that anyone else would have recommended. It was the choice that produced a daughter named Eileen, and a career that mattered, and a war that was won differently, and a world that was saved through absence, through the chain of events that one choice had broken. One word, one chance, one turning around. That was enough. That was everything. More threads, Petunia. The relationship between Lily Evans Snape and Petunia Evans Dursley was the relationship that the marriage didn't fix. Petunia had hated magic since Lily's letter came. The hatred was not the pure ideological hatred of someone who opposed magic on principle. It was the hatred of someone who had wanted magic, who had written to Dumbledore begging for admission, who had been told she was not magical, who had spent her adolescence watching her sister receive the gift she'd been denied. The marriage to Snape made things worse. Not because Snape was Snape. Petunia didn't know Snape, had never met Snape, couldn't have identified him in a lineup. Because the marriage was to another wizard, which meant Lily had gone deeper into the world that Petunia couldn't access, and the depth was another measure of the distance between them. "I'd like you to come to the wedding," Lily said on the phone. "The Evans family didn't have an owl." "I'll come," Petunia said, "because Mum and Dad want me to." "I want you to come because you want to," Lily said. "I'll come because Mum and Dad want me to," Petunia repeated. Petunia came to the wedding. She sat in the back row. She left before the reception. The leaving was not dramatic. Petunia didn't make scenes. Petunia managed her emotions through absence, which was the Dursley method, and which produced, over decades, a relationship defined by the conversations that didn't happen. When Eileen was born, Lily tried again. She brought the baby to Petunia's house in Surrey, the house on Privet Drive that Petunia and Vernon had purchased with the mortgage that Vernon's drill company salary supported. "This is Eileen," Lily said, holding the baby. Petunia looked at the baby, at her niece, who was small and dark-haired, and who was, by the fact of her parents, magical. "She's lovely," Petunia said. The word was the right word. The tone was wrong. The tone was the controlled, managed, holding back tone of someone who was looking at a baby and seeing, instead of a baby, the complete evidence of the life she hadn't been given. "Would you like to hold her?" Lily said. "Better not," Petunia said. "I might. I wouldn't want to." "You're not going to hurt her," Lily said. "I know I'm not going to hurt her," Petunia said. I'd rather not." The rather not was the wall that Petunia had built between herself and Lily's world, the wall that was made of the things Petunia didn't say and the visits she didn't make and the phone calls she didn't return. Lily tried for 15 years to reach through the wall. She sent Christmas cards. She sent birthday presents for Dudley, who was born in 1980, the same year as Eileen. She called on holidays. She showed up at Petunia's door with the persistence of someone who believed that family was worth fighting for. The fighting didn't work. Some walls were structural, load-bearing walls, the kind that held the rest of the building up. Petunia's wall between herself and magic was the wall that held Petunia's identity together. Remove the wall, and Petunia collapsed into the wanting that she'd been managing since she was 11. "She'll never accept it," Snape said, after Lily came home from a visit to Privet Drive that had lasted 12 uncomfortable minutes. "She's my sister," Lily said. "She's your sister who cannot accept what you are," Snape said. "The inability is not malice. It's architecture." "You're analysing my sister," Lily said. "I'm identifying the structural issue," Snape said. "Your sister's rejection of magic is foundational to her self-concept. Accepting your magic would require her to reconstruct her identity, and identity reconstruction is difficult. It's not impossible, Lily said. It's not impossible, Snape said. It is, however, your sister's work to do. You cannot reconstruct her identity for her. I can be present, Lily said. I can keep showing up. You've been showing up for 15 years, Snape said. Then I'll show up for 15 more, Lily said. That is stubbornly optimistic, Snape said. That's me, Lily said. Stubbornly optimistic. I know, Snape said. You married me. The line landed. The Snape humour, the dry, self-deprecating, delivered without expression quality that Lily had spent 2 decades learning to read as affection. That was the most optimistic thing I've ever done, Lily said. That was the most optimistic thing anyone has ever done, Snape said. Snape and Dumbledore. The relationship without espionage in the other timeline. The relationship between Snape and Dumbledore had been defined by utility. Dumbledore needed a spy. Snape needed absolution. The relationship was transactional at its core, built on mutual need, maintained through mutual obligation, and characterized by the controlled chess-like quality of 2 brilliant men using each other. In this timeline, the relationship was different. There was no espionage, no double game, no 2-decade deception. What there was, instead, was the relationship between a headmaster and a teacher who happened to be the most talented potions master alive and who happened to be difficult in every possible interpersonal dimension. You're alienating the students, Dumbledore said in their annual review meeting. The meeting was a formality. Snape had been teaching for 5 years and the teaching was excellent, in the way that an earthquake was excellent, powerful, effective, and leaving survivors shaken. I'm educating the students, Snape said. Alienation is a side effect. The side effect is producing complaints, Dumbledore said. From parents. The parents' complaints are inversely correlated with their children's potions scores, Snape said. The parents who complain the most are the parents whose children are performing the best. That's actually true, Dumbledore said, reviewing the data. The correlation is quite strong. The students who are alienated are also the students who are learning the most, Snape said. Because the alienation is a product of high expectations, and high expectations produce high performance. There is such a thing as too high expectations, Dumbledore said. I have not yet found the ceiling, Snape said. That's because you're not looking for it, Dumbledore said. Why would I look for a ceiling? Snape said. Ceilings limit growth. Dumbledore looked at Snape with the blue eyes that had been evaluating people for over a century. You're a better teacher than you think you are, Dumbledore said. I'm exactly the teacher I think I am, Snape said. The student's perception is the variable. The students perceive you as frightening, Dumbledore said. Good, Snape said. Frightened students pay attention. Severus, Dumbledore said. You cannot terrify children into learning. I'm not terrifying them, Snape said. I'm motivating them through the strategic deployment of high standards and measured disapproval. You made a first year cry last week, Dumbledore said. The first year added lace-ewing flies in the wrong sequence, Snape said. The emotional response was the students', not mine. You said their potion was an insult to the concept of measurement, Dumbledore said. It was, Snape said. The lace-ewing flies were added at intervals that bore no relationship to any known temporal framework. Severus, Dumbledore said, I need you to consider the possibility that your standards, while admirable, require a delivery mechanism that does not produce tears. I will consider it, Snape said. Will you actually consider it? Or are you saying that to end this conversation? Dumbledore said. Both, Snape said. Dumbledore sighed. The sigh was the sigh of a man who had spent 5 years having this conversation with a teacher who was brilliant and inflexible, and whose wife had already told him the same thing. and who was going to change at the speed that Severus Snape changed everything. Slowly, grudgingly, and only when the evidence was overwhelming. Lily has spoken to me, Dumbledore said. Lily speaks to everyone, Snape said. It's her defining quality. She says you're gentler at home, Dumbledore said. With Eileen. Eileen is my daughter, Snape said. The students are other people's children. They are still children, Dumbledore said. They are still other people's, Snape said. Severus, Dumbledore said. The gentleness you show Eileen, the patience, and I say this knowing you will deny it, the warmth. That version of you is also available for the classroom. That version is reserved, Snape said. Reserved for whom? Dumbledore said. For the people who matter, Snape said. All children matter, Dumbledore said. All children matter in theory, Snape said. In practice, some children are significantly more important to me than others, and the discrepancy is because the important ones are mine. You cannot teach that way, Dumbledore said. I have been teaching that way for 5 years, Snape said. The potions OWL scores have improved by 30%. The OWL scores are not the only measure, Dumbledore said. They are the measure that matters, Snape said. They are the measure that's easiest to count, Dumbledore said. The measure that matters is, do the students love potions after 7 years with you? Snape was quiet. Love is not a pedagogical objective, Snape said. Competence is. Love and competence are not mutually exclusive, Dumbledore said. In my experience, they are frequently in tension, Snape said. Your experience, Dumbledore said, has been limited by your unwillingness to expand it. My experience has been limited by reality, Snape said, which is a considerably more robust constraint. Dumbledore looked at him. The look lasted long enough for the assessment to complete. You will, eventually, learn to be kind to students, Dumbledore said. Not because I tell you to. Because Eileen will arrive at Hogwarts, and she will sit in your classroom and she will show you what it looks like when a child who loves you watches you be unkind to other children. That's manipulative, Snape said. It's predictive, Dumbledore said. Your daughter will hold you to a higher standard than I can. My daughter already holds me to a higher standard than anyone, Snape said. Then let her, Dumbledore said. Eileen arrived at Hogwarts. Eileen sat in Snape's classroom. And Dumbledore's prediction came true. Snape, who could not be moved by argument or policy or the complaints of parents, was moved by the expression on his daughter's face when she watched him reduce a second year to silence with a comment about their creative interpretation of the instructions. The expression was not anger. It was not disappointment. It was the expression of a child who loved her father and who was seeing for the first time the person her father was to people who were not her. Snape saw the expression. He did not change overnight. Snape did not change overnight about anything. But he adjusted. The comments became less cutting. The standards remained high. The delivery became not warm, never warm, but less cold. The difference between Sub-Zero and merely chilly. You gave Neville Longbottom 5 points, Eileen said, after the famous potions class. His work was adequate, Snape said. You've never given Gryffindor points in my presence before, Eileen said. The circumstances warranted it, Snape said. The circumstances were that I was watching, Eileen said. The circumstances were that Longbottom's work was adequate, Snape said. Your presence was incidental, Dad, Eileen said. I know when you're lying. I'm not lying, Snape said. I'm managing the narrative. That's lying with better vocabulary, Eileen said. You sound like your mother, Snape said. Thank you, Eileen said. That was not a compliment, Snape said. And then, because Eileen was looking at him with Lily's expression, it was, however, accurate. The war years, what Lily risked during the First War against Voldemort, Lily took risks that she didn't tell Snape about. This was the secret of the marriage, the one area where Lily's honesty had a limit. She told Snape about the Order's strategy sessions. She told him about the intelligence work, the network mapping, the financial analysis. She did not tell him about the field operations. The field operations were the dangerous part. The intelligence work was desk-based, safe, analytical. Lily's particular genius applied to the specific problem of understanding Voldemort's organization. The field operations were the application of that intelligence, the raids on Death Eater safe houses, the extraction of threatened Muggle-born families, the direct confrontation with Voldemort's forces. Lily went on 3 field operations during the war. Each one was authorized by Dumbledore, planned by Moody, and kept from Snape. "He can't know," Lily told Dumbledore. "If he knows I'm in combat situations, he'll either try to stop me or try to come with me, and both of those are worse than the risk." "You're asking me to help you keep a secret from your husband," Dumbledore said. "I'm asking you to help me do my job," Lily said. "The field operations save lives. The intelligence is useless if nobody acts on it." "The intelligence could be acted on by someone else," Dumbledore said. "The intelligence is mine," Lily said. "I understand the networks better than anyone. The field operations are more effective when the person who built the intelligence picture is present." "That's true," Dumbledore said. "It's also a justification for risk that your husband would not accept." "Which is why he can't know," Lily said. Dumbledore helped. Not happily, Dumbledore's relationship with deception was the relationship of an expert, and even experts found certain deceptions uncomfortable. But he helped because Lily was right. The field operations were more effective with her, and the effectiveness saved lives. The 3rd field operation nearly killed her. It was a safe house extraction. A Muggle-born family in Bristol, identified through Lily's network analysis as a Snatcher target. The extraction team was Lily, Moody, and 2 other Order members. The plan was clean: arrive, extract the family, apparate to safety. The Snatchers were waiting. The intelligence had been compromised. Peter Pettigrew, who was already passing information to Voldemort, had leaked the operation. The fight was brief and vicious. Moody lost his leg, the incident that, in the other timeline, had happened under different circumstances, but with the same result. Because some events were attracted to certain people. Lily took a curse to the shoulder that left her unable to use her left arm for 3 weeks. She came home that night with the arm bound and the cover story ready. A laboratory accident. A potion that had reacted badly. Nothing serious. Snape looked at the arm, at the binding, at the precise way the injury was presented. "That's not a laboratory injury," Snape said. I have spent 20 years identifying the effects of combat magic," Snape said. "That is a Severing curse, partially deflected. The angle of entry is consistent with a target who was moving laterally, probably running." Lily was quiet. "You were in the field," Snape said. "Sev, how many times?" Snape said. 3, Lily said. 3 field operations, Snape said, that you didn't tell me about. I didn't tell you because you knew I would object, Snape said. Because you knew that my objection would be what? Irrational? Controlling? Protective, Lily said. Your objection would be protective, and the protection would prevent me from doing work that saves lives. Your life, Snape said. Your life is the one I'm trying to protect, and the lives of the people I was extracting, Lily said. A family in Bristol, Muggle-born, 2 children. Did you extract them? Snape said. Yes, Lily said, and the cost was, he gestured at her arm, the cost was a Severing curse, Lily said, which will heal, and if it had been worse, Snape said, if the curse had been a killing curse, if I had been sitting in this kitchen waiting for you to come home and you didn't come home, that's the risk, Lily said. That's my risk, Snape said. The risk you took without my knowledge. The risk you decided I didn't deserve to evaluate. You would have stopped me, Lily said. Yes, Snape said. I would have. Because stopping you from getting killed is, Lily, that's the minimum function of a person who loves you. And the family in Bristol? Lily said. Their lives are less important than my safety? To me? Snape said. Yes, unequivocally. Your life is more important than any stranger's life. I'm aware that this is morally indefensible, and I don't care. The argument lasted 2 hours. The argument was the worst argument of their marriage, worse than the disagreements about Snape's teaching, worse than the discussions about Tobias, worse than any of the daily, grinding, marriage-sustaining conflicts that constituted their normal operating environment. The argument ended without resolution. Lily did not promise to stop going on field operations. Snape did not promise to accept them. They went to bed angry, which was a thing they'd been told never to do, and which they did anyway because the anger was real and the pretending it wasn't was worse. The next morning, Snape was in the kitchen. He had not slept. He had brewed a healing potion, the advanced wound closure formula that was his invention, that worked faster and more completely than anything available at St. Mungo's. For the arm, Snape said. He put the potion on the table. Sev, I can't stop you, Snape said. I've been awake all night processing the fact that I can't stop you, and the processing has produced a conclusion. What conclusion? Lily said. If I can't stop you from taking risks, Snape said, I can equip you to survive them. Equip me how? Lily said. Potions, Snape said. Healing draughts, antidotes, protective formulas, the best I can make, which is the best anyone can make. You're going to brew me a field kit? Lily said. I'm going to brew you the most comprehensive combat support potions package in the history of magical warfare, Snape said. Because I cannot control your choices and I refuse to be useless in the face of them. Lily looked at the potion on the table. At the perfect, precisely brewed, Snape-quality healing formula that her husband had made at 3 a.m. because he loved her and couldn't stop her, and had channeled his helplessness into the one thing he could do. That's the most romantic thing you've ever done, Lily said. It's the most practical thing I've ever done, Snape said. Romance is incidental. Sev, Lily said. In your case, practical is romantic. I reject the premise, Snape said. Drink the potion. She drank the potion. The arm healed. The argument settled, not into resolution, but into accommodation. The marriage, sustaining accommodation of two people who disagreed about something fundamental and who chose to love each other across the disagreement. Snape built the field kit. 27 potions, each one crafted to the highest standard, covering every combat scenario he could imagine. He updated it monthly. He added potions when new threats emerged. He maintained the kit for the duration of the war with the same precision he brought to everything else. The kit saved Lily's life on the 4th field operation, a blood-replenishing potion, brewed by Snape, administered by Lily herself after a curse that would have been fatal without it. She came home. She put the empty vial on the kitchen table. It worked, Lily said. Snape looked at the empty vial, at the evidence that his wife had been close enough to death to need the potion he'd made for exactly that scenario. He did not say anything. He picked up the vial, cleaned it, and put it back in the kit with a full replacement. Same time next month? Snape said. Same time next month, Lily said. They didn't discuss it further. The discussion was in the vial, in the making and the using and the replacing. The discussion was in the practice, which was Snape's language, the language Lily had learned to read. Eileen at 5, the garden when Eileen was 5, she planted a garden. A muggle garden. Lily had taught her about seeds and soil and the non-magical process of growing things, because Lily believed that understanding the non-magical world was important for a child who was going to grow up magical. Eileen planted sunflowers. She planted them in the back garden of the Cokeworth house, in a row along the fence, with the precise spacing that suggested either natural talent or inherited precision. "They're 3 inches apart," Snape observed, looking at the row. "Is that wrong?" Eileen said. "Sunflowers require 12 inches between plantings," Snape said. "Oh," Eileen said. She looked at her row, her careful, precisely spaced, incorrectly distanced row of seeds. "However," Snape said, "the precision of the spacing suggests an aptitude for measurement that is not insignificant." "Is that good?" Eileen said. "It means you'll need to replant them," Snape said, "but you'll replant them well." Eileen replanted the sunflowers with 12-inch spacing. The process took an hour. Snape sat in the garden and watched, not helping. Because Snape believed that helping a child do something they could do themselves was a disservice to the child's development, but present. Because Snape's version of parenting was presence without interference, which was the opposite of Tobias Snape's parenting with interferer, and which was, in its quiet way, a revolution. "Da," Eileen said, after the replanting. "Will they grow?" "They will grow if you water them," Snape said. "Every day?" Eileen said. "Every day," Snape said. "Will you help?" Eileen said. "I will supervise," Snape said. "What supervise?" Eileen said. "It means watching and providing commentary," Snape said. "So? Not helping," Eileen said. "Supervision is a form of helping," Snape said. "The form that requires the least physical effort." "Mum says you're lazy about gardening," Eileen said. "Your mother says many things," Snape said. "Not all of them are accurate." "Mum says everything she says is accurate," Eileen said. "Your mother is frequently correct," Snape said. "About gardening, she is incorrect." "I am not lazy. I am conserving energy for activities that require magical rather than physical effort." "Like potions," Eileen said. "Like potions," Snape said. "Can I learn potions?" Eileen said. "You can learn the theory," Snape said. "Practical work requires a wand, which you will receive at 11. "That's 6 years," Eileen said. "6 years of theory," Snape said, "which is sufficient to ensure that when you begin practical work, you are considerably ahead of your peers." "Is being ahead of your peers important?" Eileen said. "Being ahead of your peers is the minimum acceptable standard," Snape said. "Da," Eileen said. "You're very intense." Snape looked at his 5-year-old daughter, who had just described him with the word intense, which was the most accurate single-word description of Severus Snape that anyone had ever produced. "Yes," Snape said. "I am." "I like it," Eileen said. "I'm glad," Snape said. The sunflowers grew. Over the summer, the row of seeds became a row of plants and then a row of flowers, enormous, yellow, turning to follow the sun with the slow determination of living things that knew which direction to face. Snape watched them grow. He didn't care about sunflowers particularly, because Eileen had planted them, and watching Eileen's work grow was watching Eileen grow, and watching Eileen grow was the activity that Severus Snape had discovered at 35, was the only activity that mattered more than potions. "The sunflowers are taller than me," Eileen said in August. "They're taller than most things," Snape said. "Sunflowers are ambitious plants." "Like you," Eileen said. "Like us," Snape said. Dumbledore's assessment in 1994. Dumbledore sat in his office and made an assessment. The assessment was about the world, about the state of things, the position of the pieces, the probability of Voldemort's return, and the readiness of the forces that would oppose him. The assessment was favourable, more favourable than it had been in the other timeline. The Horcruxes had been identified, the diary destroyed by Dumbledore in 1992. The ring destroyed by Snape's method in 1994. The locket, cated, pending destruction. The cup, cated, pending destruction. The diadem in the room of requirement, destroyed. The snake identified, requiring specific conditions for destruction. The Horcrux in Harry Potter did not exist, because Harry Potter as a Horcrux vessel did not exist. The scar on Neville's cheek was a mark of the curse's failure, not a soul fragment. Voldemort had made 6 Horcruxes, not 7. The Order was intact. Dumbledore was alive and uncursed. The intelligence network that Lily had built was operational. The potion support that Snape provided was ongoing. James and Emmeline and Sirius and Remus were active and capable. The defensive infrastructure was stronger than it had been in any other configuration of events. "We're prepared," Dumbledore told the Order at a meeting in 1995. "More prepared than we have any right to be." "What changed?" Moody asked. Dumbledore looked at Lily, at Snape, who was not at the meeting but whose potions were on the table and whose analytical contributions to the Horcrux hunt had been essential. At the configuration of lives, that one choice, one word not being the last, one girl turning around in a corridor had produced everything, Dumbledore said, and one thing specifically. "What one thing?" Moody asked. "A conversation," Dumbledore said, "between 2 teenagers, 20 years ago." "That's very cryptic," Moody said. "Cryptic is my preferred register," Dumbledore said. "But the substance is simple. The world we're living in is the world that exists because one person chose love over belonging, and the choosing made everything different." "Potter?" Moody guessed. "Potter, choosing Vance over Evans?" "No," Dumbledore said. "Snape, choosing Evans over the Death Eaters." The room was quiet. The Order, which included people who had spent their careers fighting the ideology that Snape had once been drawn to, processed the information that the world's relative safety was partly attributable to a choice made by a person they didn't particularly like. "Snape," Moody said. "Snape," Dumbledore confirmed. "The potions professor who makes first years cry," Moody said. "The same," Dumbledore said. "His choice saved the world," Moody said. "His choice changed the world," Dumbledore said. "Saved is, we shall see." One word, one corridor, one chance. That was what it came down to. Not the prophecy, not the Horcruxes, not the decades of war and preparation, and the slow, grinding work of building a world that could survive the thing that was coming. One 15-year-old boy on a corridor floor being offered one chance by a 15-year-old girl who could have walked away forever. He took the chance. He lost everything he had, the friends, the belonging, the path to the dark arts mastery that his talent deserved. He gained everything he needed. A wife who saw him clearly and loved him anyway, a daughter who called him Dar and wasn't frightened of him, a career that mattered even if he was difficult about it, and a world that survived partly because he wasn't in the room where the prophecy was overheard. Absence as heroism. The bravest thing he ever did was the thing he didn't do. He didn't go to the Hog's Head. He didn't hear the prophecy. He didn't deliver it to Voldemort. He didn't set in motion the chain that led to a family's door on Halloween night. He was home, in Cokeworth, with his wife, holding his daughter. That was the heroism. That was the victory. That was the thing that saved everything. Not a spell, not a battle, not a dramatic act of sacrifice. A choice, made at 15, maintained for 30 years. One chance. Taken, that was enough. That was everything. Final thread Sirius and the Snape problem Sirius Black's relationship with the Lily-Snape marriage was the relationship of a man who loved his best friend and who had to watch his best friend lose the love of his life to the person they'd spent 5 years tormenting. Sirius handled it how Sirius handled everything. loudly, emotionally, and with the subtlety of a bludger. "I still hate him," Sirius said to James, "at least once a month for the first 3 years after the wedding." "I know," James said. "He's Snivellus," Sirius said. "He's greasy and bitter, and his nose is enormous, and he married the best woman either of us has ever met." "I know," James said. "How are you this calm about it?" Sirius said. "I'm not calm," James said. "I'm managing." "There's a difference." "I don't manage," Sirius said. "I react." "I've noticed," James said. The hatred mellowed over the decade. Sirius's emotional development was the emotional development of someone who had spent 12 years in the same set of feelings and who found the set comfortable enough not to change. The hatred mellowed because the circumstances forced it. The Order needed Snape's potions, and Sirius needed the Order, and the transitive property of necessity produced a grudging tolerance that Sirius expressed through elaborate pretenses of indifference. "I don't care about Snape," Sirius said, drinking one of Snape's healing potions after a battle in 1980. "I merely acknowledge that his potions are professionally competent." "You're drinking his potion right now," Remus said. "Under protest," Sirius said. "You've drunk his potions after every battle for 2 years," Remus said. "Under sustained protest," Sirius said. "You sent him a thank you note last month," Remus said. "I was concussed," Sirius said. "You were not concussed," Remus said. "You wrote Snape. The wound closure formula worked well. Grudgingly, S. Black. You signed it with your full name." "The concussion may have been delayed," Sirius said. Remus looked at him with the expression of a werewolf who had spent 15 years watching his best friends pretend they didn't have feelings. "You respect him," Remus said. "I tolerate him," Sirius said. "You respect his competence," Remus said. "Which is not the same as liking him, but is considerably more than you were willing to give him at school." "He married Lily," Sirius said. "He doesn't get my liking. He gets my acknowledgement that his potions don't kill people. That's the ceiling. The ceiling is higher than the floor used to be," Remus said. "Don't be philosophical," Sirius said. "It's your worst quality. My worst quality is the monthly transformation into a dangerous beast," Remus said. "Second worst," Sirius said. "The philosophy is worse." They finished the potions. Sirius put the empty vial in his pocket, not to return it, not out of respect for Snape's work, but because the vial was useful for carrying spare change, and because admitting the real reason, urging, painful, entirely involuntary respect for the man who had married Lily Evans, and who was, against every prediction. Keeping her happy was a thing that Sirius Black would go to his grave not admitting. Remus, and the outside view Remus Lupin, was the person who understood the Lily-Snape marriage best from the outside, because Remus was the person who understood complicated relationships best from any angle. This was the werewolf's gift, the enforced monthly experience of being two things at once. Remus understood duality. He understood the gap between who you were and who you appeared to be, between the person inside and the person the world saw. He understood Snape's marriage to Lily because he understood what it looked like when someone lived in the gap between their nature and their choices. "He's not the person I expected him to become," Remus said to James, years after the wedding. "Who did you expect?" James said. "A Death Eater," Remus said. Frankly, at school the trajectory was obvious. The dark arts, the friends, the ideology, everything pointed toward the mark. "And instead he married Lily," James said. "And instead he changed," Remus said. "Not completely, not easily, but genuinely." "You think the change is genuine," James said. "I think the change is the hardest thing he's ever done," Remus said. "Every day. For 15 years. Choosing to be the person Lily needs instead of the person his circumstances made." "You sound like you admire him," James said. "I understand him," Remus said. "Which is different. I understand what it costs to fight your nature every day. I do it every month." "The werewolf," James said. "The werewolf is the nature," Remus said. "The person is the choice." Snape's version is different, the bitterness is the nature, Lily is the choice, but the structure is the same. That's actually very insightful, James said. I have insights, Remus said. I keep them for special occasions. This is a special occasion? James said. You're asking about Snape without hostility, Remus said. That's rare enough to qualify. James looked at Remus. At his friend, who was the quietest of the Marauders and who was, when he chose to speak, the most perceptive. I don't hate him anymore, James said. I know, Remus said. I don't like him, James said. I don't think I'll ever like him. But the hatred is gone, replaced by something that's harder to name. Acceptance, Remus said. Maybe, James said. Or recognition. I recognize what he did, what he gave up. I don't like him, but I recognize that the giving up was real, costly, brave, in its way. That's very mature of you, Remus said. Don't tell Sirius, James said. He'll think I've been body snatched. Sirius sent Snape a thank you note last month, Remus said. He did? James said. Under the influence of a delayed concussion, according to him, Remus said. Sirius wasn't concussed, James said. I know, Remus said. We're all getting old, James said. We're all getting something, Remus said. I'm not sure old is the word. Complicated, maybe. Complicated covers it, James said. The kitchen table 20 years after the corridor conversation. The kitchen table in the Hogsmeade house was the geography of the Snape family. Breakfast was Snape's domain. He cooked, precisely, efficiently, with the methodology of a potions master applied to eggs and toast. The eggs were always the right temperature. The toast was always the right colour. The tea was always the correct strength, brewed to a specification that Snape had established in the first year of the marriage and that had not varied in 2 decades. The consistency is reassuring, Lily said. The consistency is quality control, Snape said. You quality control breakfast, Lily said. I quality control everything, Snape said. Breakfast is merely the first opportunity. Dinner was Lily's domain. Lily cooked with the creative, experimental, occasionally disastrous enthusiasm of someone who treated recipes as suggestions rather than instructions. You've added something to the pasta, Snape said, examining his plate. Turmeric, Lily said. Turmeric is not a traditional pasta ingredient, Snape said. I'm innovating, Lily said. You're experimenting on a dish that functions adequately without experimentation, Snape said. Adequately is not a culinary aspiration, Lily said. Adequately is the baseline, Snape said. Below adequate is failure. Above adequate is risk. Risk is where the interesting flavours live, Lily said. Risk is where the turmeric lives, Snape said. I'm not certain these are the same thing. He ate the pasta. He ate every pasta that Lily made, every experimental dinner, every creative interpretation of a recipe. He ate them because Lily had made them, and because eating what Lily made was part of the marriage's vocabulary. The same vocabulary that included holding hands without flinching and reading potions texts to a sleeping baby and saying, "Don't tell anyone," after every expression of tenderness. The kitchen table was where the family met, where Eileen did homework while Snape corrected essays and Lily read ministry documents. Where the 3 of them sat together, not always talking, not always engaged in the same activity, but present. Together, in the house that was theirs. The table is too small, Snape said, periodically. The table was not too small. The table was exactly the right size for 3 people and 2 sets of books and 1 ministry briefcase and the accumulated papers of a family that communicated through shared space. The table is perfect, Lily said. The table is adequate, Snape said. In your vocabulary, Lily said, adequate is perfect. I reject the equivalence, Snape said. But I accept the table. That's the most romantic thing you've said today, Lily said. It's 8 in the morning, Snape said. The day has barely begun. And yet you've peaked, Lily said. I have not peaked, Snape said. I am building to a climax of emotional expression that will arrive at approximately, he checked his watch. Never, Sev, Lily said. The eggs are getting cold, Snape said. She ate the eggs. The eggs were perfect, because Snape's eggs were always perfect, because perfection was Snape's language and the eggs were the words. The kitchen table held them, every morning, every evening, for 30 years. The table that was adequate and perfect and too small and exactly right. That was the marriage. Not the dramatic gestures, not the great sacrifices. The eggs, the table, the consistency, the daily, unglamorous, entirely unremarkable practice of being together. One chance, one corridor, one word not being the last, and then 30 years of breakfast. He was not a good man. Not by the standards the world used, warm, kind, approachable, easy. He was cold and precise and difficult, and his idea of emotional expression was accepting a kitchen table as adequate. He was, however, a man who chose. At 15, he chose Lily over belonging. At 20, he chose marriage over the dark arts. At 25, he chose fatherhood over the familiar comfort of isolation. At 30, he chose to modify his teaching because his daughter's expression told him the teaching was cruel. Every choice cost him. The belonging cost him friends. The marriage cost him autonomy. The fatherhood cost him the image of himself as someone who didn't need anyone. The teaching modification cost him the satisfaction of being feared. He paid every cost. Not gracefully. Not easily, with the grinding, graceless Snape-specific difficulty of a man who was not built for warmth, and who produced warmth anyway because the woman he loved required it, and because the daughter they'd made deserved it. Lily chose him knowing what he was. She chose him because she saw, underneath the bitterness and the brilliance and the flinching, the person who was capable of this much love, but who had never been given a target for it. She was the target. Eileen was the target. The kitchen table was the target. He hit every one. Not perfectly, not gracefully. With the precision of a man whose aim was the one quality that had never failed him. One chance. He made it count. Last thread, what Eileen knew Eileen Snape knew her father before she understood him. At 3, she knew that Dar was the tall one who read potions books at bedtime, and who smelled like dried herbs, and who flinched when strangers touched him, but who let her grab his hair without pulling away. At 7, she knew that Dar was different from other people's fathers. Other children's fathers went to football matches and told jokes and laughed loudly at parties. Her father went to a laboratory and told facts and produced, on rare occasions, a smile so small that you had to be looking for it to see it. At 10, she knew that the difference was not a deficiency. Other fathers were warm. Her father was precise. Other fathers expressed love through hugs and games and the easy physical affection that came naturally to people who had been loved as children. Her father expressed love through eggs cooked at exactly the right temperature and potions brewed for her mother's combat kit and bedtime reading that had started as potions theory and had evolved over the years into whatever Eileen wanted to hear. Read me the one about the wolfsbane potion, 7-year-old Eileen said. That's a chapter on lycanthropy management, Snape said. I know, Eileen said. I like the part where the potion lets the person keep their mind during the transformation. The wolfsbane potion is one of the most complex formulations in modern potions, Snape said. The margin for error is, tell me, Eileen said. He told her. Every night he told her. About potions, about magic, about the world that she was going to enter at 11 and that was going to be hers the way it had been his, but better. Better because she would enter it without the bitterness, without the poverty, without the father who hit and the mother who endured. Better because the world she was entering had a mother who fought for justice, and a father who had chosen love, and a kitchen table where breakfast was always at the right temperature. At 12, in her second year at Hogwarts, Eileen understood her father for the first time. She understood him because she read a book. A Muggle book, borrowed from the Hogwarts Library's small Muggle literature section, which existed because Dumbledore believed that wisdom was not restricted to magical sources. The book was about a man who had grown up without love and who had spent his adult life learning to give it. The learning was hard. The giving was imperfect. The book was not about magic. Eileen read the book and thought about her father and understood, with the clarity that comes from seeing someone you know reflected in someone you don't, that her father was the man in the book. The man who had not been taught to love and who had taught himself. Through practice, through repetition, through the daily, unglamorous, entirely unromantic process of showing up and being present and cooking eggs and reading potions texts to a sleeping child. "Da," Eileen said, in the corridor outside the potions classroom. She had come to find him after class. The corridor was empty, the students had gone, the lesson was over, the space belonged to the two of them. "Yes?" Snape said. "I read a book," Eileen said. "You read many books," Snape said. "That is, I'm told, the purpose of education. This one was about a man who learned to love," Eileen said, "who wasn't taught it as a child, who had to teach himself." Snape was very still. "The man in the book," Eileen said. It took him years. And he made mistakes. And the love he eventually gave was not the easy kind. It was the hard kind. The kind that came from practice rather than instinct. "That sounds like an interesting book," Snape said. His voice was the controlled voice. The voice that meant the conversation had reached territory that required management. "It's your book, Da," Eileen said. "It's your story." "I am not a character in a Muggle novel," Snape said. "You're a person who taught himself to love," Eileen said, "through practice, through eggs and potions texts and holding Mum's hand without flinching." "I occasionally flinch," Snape said. "Less than you used to," Eileen said. "Your mother has mentioned this," Snape said. "Da," Eileen said. "I want you to know that I know." "Know what?" Snape said. "That it's hard for you," Eileen said. "The touching, the warmth, all of it. I know it doesn't come naturally. I know you work at it. Every day. Eileen, and I want you to know that the working is what I love about you," Eileen said. "Not the result. The working. Because the working means you chose it. The people whose love comes naturally, they didn't choose. They just have it. You chose. Every day. For my whole life." Snape stood in the corridor and looked at his 12-year-old daughter and felt the analytical engine run, the engine that processed everything, that catalogued and evaluated and produced conclusions. And the engine produced nothing. The engine had no conclusion for this. The engine had no framework for a child who had seen you clearly and who loved the seeing. "I don't know what to say," Snape said. "You don't have to say anything," Eileen said. That's unusual," Snape said. "Most conversations require a response. This one requires a hug," Eileen said. "I can do that," Snape said. He hugged her. In the corridor. Outside the potions classroom, without flinching. The hug was not practiced. The hug was not precise. The hug was the hug of a man who had spent 30 years learning to be touched, and who was, at this moment, being touched by the person whose existence had taught him that the touching was survivable. "I love you, Da," Eileen said. "I love you too," Snape said. "Don't tell anyone." "I tell everyone," Eileen said. "Every time." "I know," Snape said. "Your mother mentioned that as well." They stood in the corridor. Father and daughter. The potions classroom behind them, the castle around them, the world, continuing its business of being a world while two people stood in a corridor and held each other, and the holding was the language, and the language was love, and the love was earned. Every day. For 30 years. Through eggs and potions and a kitchen table and a choice that had started it all, one word not being the last, one girl turning around, one boy taking the chance. He had taken the chance. He had made it count. This is the story of the road not taken. In another world, Severus Snape lost Lily Evans on a lakeside in June of 1976. He went to the Death Eaters. He heard a prophecy. He delivered it to a Dark Lord. A family died. A baby survived. And Snape spent 20 years as a spy, fueled by guilt and love and the specific corrosive grief of a man who had destroyed the thing he valued most. In this world, the road turned. Lily turned around. She offered one chance. Snape took it. The taking cost him everything he had. The taking gave him everything he needed. A wife who saw him clearly. A daughter who loved the working. A career that mattered. A world that survived partly through his absence. The heroism of not being where the damage happened. He was not a good man by the world's standards. He was cold and precise and difficult. He flinched when people touched him, and he said don't tell anyone after every expression of tenderness, and his idea of romance was eggs at the correct temperature. He was the man who chose. Every day. For 30 years. One chance. One corridor. One word not being the last. That was enough. That was everything. Let us know what you'd like to see next. Epilogue, the corridor 30, years after the night on the corridor floor, the corridor was still there. Hogwarts corridors didn't change. The stone was the same stone. The torches were the same torches. The portrait of the fat lady was the same portrait guarding the same entrance to the same common room. The corridor existed in the eternal present of a school that had been standing for 1,000 years, and that would stand for 1,000 more. Snape walked through the corridor every day, on the way to the potions classroom, on the way to the Great Hall, on the way through the castle that had become his workplace and his daughter's school, and the place where the most important conversation of his life had happened. He didn't pause at the spot. He didn't look at the floor where he'd sat. He didn't mark the anniversary or perform the rituals of remembrance that other people performed for their significant moments. He didn't need to. The corridor was in him. The stone floor, the torchlight, Lily's face, the offer of one chance. The corridor was the foundation of everything that had followed, and foundations didn't need to be revisited because foundations were always there, underneath, holding everything up. But once a year, on a night in June, late when the school was asleep and the corridor was empty, he walked through it slowly. Not as a ritual, not as a remembrance, as a acknowledgement. The acknowledgement of a man who had been given one chance and who had spent 30 years justifying the giving. He walked through the corridor and he thought about the boy he'd been, 15, on the floor, desperate, saying sorry because sorry was the only word he had. And he thought about the man he was, 50, married, a father, a teacher who occasionally gave Gryffindor points, a person who could hold his daughter without flinching and cook eggs at exactly the right temperature and say I love you without the world ending. The distance between the boy and the man was 30 years of choosing, 30 years of the daily, unglamorous, difficult, entirely unromantic work of being a person who deserved the chance he'd been given. He walked through the corridor. He reached the end. He turned the corner toward his office. Lily was there, waiting, because Lily always knew when Snape was walking the corridor the same way Lily always knew everything about him, through observation, through love, through 30 years of paying attention. The corridor? Lily said. The corridor, Snape said. How was it? Lily said. Unchanged, Snape said. Like everything at Hogwarts. Like us, Lily said. We've changed considerably, Snape said. We're older and I'm marginally less unpleasant. Marginally, Lily said. That's generous. I've earned generous, Snape said. You have, Lily said. She took his hand. He didn't flinch. They walked through the castle together. Through the corridors that had been theirs since they were 11, the corridors where they'd met as children and fought as teenagers and found each other again on a night when one word almost ended everything and one chance saved it. The castle was quiet. The students were asleep. The world was at peace, not perfectly, not permanently, but functionally. The peace that existed because a boy on a corridor floor had been given one chance and had spent 30 years earning it. One chance. One word. One corridor. 30 years of breakfast. That was the story. That was the whole story. That was enough.